G'day, and man, this is the worst part about doing it live. I can't redo the intro, can I? Welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. I'm clearly tongue-tied. Wait, I don't have my lights on either. There we go. And how are you, Algared? I'm tired, obviously, as are you.
Yeah, I'm feeling tired and, yeah, not 100%, but that's life.
Yeah.
Happens when you get older, I think.
I keep telling him to have naps, but he refuses. It's like that confirms
I'll start having naps and you'll be... If I start having naps, you'll be calling me an old man even more. Come on.
Yeah, I know. That's probably half my point. Come on, let's be honest.
You're an evil man. That's all I'll say.
So, besides taking your guys' questions today, we're going to be also, we're going to have a look at the Gen 12 render info, and we're going to go through the questions on the Q&A for the Expanse, because we often have a lot of complaints about the questions that answered and stuff like that, and we just thought we'd have a bit of a laugh, because some of them are pretty bad.
How well can we answer the questions?
Hey, Graven, nice to see you in chat. First one here, I think. So, yeah. But
Have
anyway,
you started the question stream yet?
No, I haven't started the bot. Thank you for reminding me. I will do that right now.
My job.
Yeah.
I've only got one job. Remind you to start the bot.
One job. One job in a list of 100 that I've got to do. But yeah, I should be training you to do this. But yeah, it's all right. I'll get there eventually. All right, bot is up and running. All right, so your questions are good. Hey, so I've got a few more people now. Feathers McGraw, Van Ham Gaming, and Not Sure. And Dell. Hey, Dell, you're in chat with us as well, so that's kind of a bit cheaty. Oh, no, he was. I asked if you'll be able to blade the turret and slave it to the pilot. Oh, sorry. Well, we had you muted, so that's probably why we didn't catch that one.
That's because he was on record, you know.
Hey, Soul Citizens is in chat. Hey, guys, how you doing? What's your stuff? I lurk a lot on your channel and watch what you do. So, yeah. I don't say hi. I probably should say hi more. But, yeah, nice to see you guys. Like your stuff. It's good. So yeah, we're going to go through that. We're also going to take some questions. Is there anything that kind of should we? I don't know. Anything for you game-wise that happened this week, Algared?
No.
No. Have you been any more like in the PTU this week?
I did try to get into a PTU and it crashed on me.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 10,000.
Sorry, I'm just reading what Soul Citizen said in chat. Keep going.
Yeah, so a 10,006 or something like that error, and so yeah, that was about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I've been having a lot of issues with weird crashes and stuff like that as well. It's definitely been one of the more problematic crash PTUs that we've had in a while, but when you realize that they're implementing Quanta, they've got some Gen 12 stuff going in there as well, so they've got a lot of moving parts this time around. Yeah. And it's not you normally have a patch and it's got like this one or two big pillars type of thing.
Yeah.
This patch is like lots of little moving things across the board, so it's one of those really, I think I'd use the term stealth patch compared to what we're used to. There's lots of little things in it that make it a very big patch. It's like a 30 gig download compared to the other ones, so yeah.
It's different from the others in terms of that, isn't it? It's more lots of little bits and pieces that don't necessarily look like they're adding much, but it's all the behind the scenes stuff that will increase quality of life. I suppose that's the best way to look at it, but yeah, it's and admittedly, my crash was when I was trying to get into PTU, not the normal server. So,
right,
had I been in the normal server, I probably wouldn't have had an issue. But yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to load up something here to my phone so I can show you guys, and you're like, why are you trying to load it onto your phone? Because I'm deliberately trying to make it obscure at the same time. So yeah. But yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything else you want to go over today, Algared? Just while I'm trying to multitask and my brain.
No, I was thinking the Q&A. Have a look at we could have a look at the verse and even look at the latest lore piece on Pyro. The weird spooky stuff in Pyro that happens.
Yeah, I did see a tweet by Paul about that. What is that about in regards? Because he was saying it's like related to something on Earth. Or have I misinterpreted that?
well, I'm not sure how you'd relate it to anything on Earth. I could, but basically in Pyro, the company that originally got the rights to Pyro and tried to set it up, Ruin Station had to be built in such a way that could survive, cope with the solar flares.
Right.
And it cost them so much cash, but they needed the mining operation to be really successful. But the miners, when they were mining, kept hearing these voices in the caves, which is a bizarre setup. Apparently, it seems caused by solar flare activity reacting with the minerals in the caves and then causing audio anomalies. But it gets called the prophet of Pyro. And it would give people these weird messages like conquer and, ruler of ruin or all these other types of things. So, leave or be crushed. So the miners didn't like going mining, and the company ended up falling. And it's prophetic. See, they were talking about the mining company, not the mines itself. So yeah, a weird kind of spiritual possession aspect, and yet not. But one of the first groups to conquer Ruin Station had listened to the voices in the cave and then went over and did it. So yeah,
I think we're gonna have another one of those streams, Algared. My camera's died already, so we're gonna do it again. So I'm gonna show this really quick. This is the thumbnail for the video that is coming on the weekend. It's gonna be really quick. You're gonna have to go back and freeze frame it, or it was that quick.
You're an evil man.
I'm evil, but
you are very evil.
Yeah, but you know what it's for.
Also, yeah, it was also very interesting, wasn't it?
Yes, very interesting. We had a special guest. I'll leave it at that, and you guys can work it out for yourself from there.
And no spoilers, Del.
Yeah, Del's the only one that knows, because Del saw us doing some stuff earlier. So Del, yeah, very quiet. Yeah, but with that, I think we'll kick it over to the browser, huh? And we'll.
Yep.
And sound should be back.
Sound should be back.
Yeah, sorry about that. We had an issue with my computer when I had to rebuild the whole thing, and some of the scenes don't have the sound added, but it's in there now. So can you hear us again? Can we have audio? No, it's too expensive. So yeah.
And we just told you everything that was in the next episode that's coming, but you just missed it.
yeah, we told you. I love it. That's good.
Oh, that's evil.
All right, let's go. Well, no, I don't know how far down here we're going to go, but let's be honest. One of the things that I talk about when I do talk about like not having up, down, and downvoting arrows is that a lot of people don't realize that 70% of people won't even make it to the second page of a website. So you think about Google search. So if you type in, if we type in Star Citizen,
it's on the second page.
All this is all anyone's ever going to see. That's not a lot. They're not going to go down here and go to next. And that's Twitch.
Unless they're old people.
Yeah.
Or weird.
I would say Twitch is fairly high up.
That's what I do.
Twitch is fairly high up, yeah?
Yep.
And the fact that that's on the second page, you got YouTube and Reddit, Wikipedia, and the Rob Space Industries. That's it.
Was YouTube higher than Twitch?
Yeah, it is. There's some bit of interesting info, but anyway, yeah, I might have to.
Yeah.
Look at that. Anyway, but yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up with you guys because you need to understand why we complain about this stuff so much. Because generally speaking, think of the logic of this, right? If I have a comment on the front page, it can be downvoted if it's bad and it goes down, it goes off. But if I want to get rid of that and there's no downvoting, I have to go back onto the other page and I have to upvote all these things that potentially are not even as good as it, or just to get that down. So it doesn't make sense. Like it's so backwards. It's so like once something's on that front page, it's gonna stay there. And that's why this whole thing is fundamentally broken, because it comes down to the first people that get their questions there usually get them answered, and that's not very. I almost think that's how they like it though, but we'll wait and see. All right, on with the questions. Seto Nakaye says, how long is it planned to refine in game? How much faster than normal? Okay, well, so what's your thoughts on that, Algared? Because mine is, they've said it's faster, but they haven't said by how much. So
yeah, that's the only thing we can do is go by what Dan Truffin told us when he was talking about Refinery, and he said refining on a ship will be faster. It won't be as good as at a station.
Yeah.
So you'll get less. It'll be quicker. But it'll be more it'll make your runs more profitable. So it'll be that balance between
there's going to be
getting as much cash at a station, but
we know we've got the different processes and stuff, and so there'll be different ones that take different times. So then what are they going to say? Oh, roughly 25% or whatever. Like they're going to give you such a vague answer. So that one for me is like the answer they already gave. Again, when I was talking about logic, that's one that you can use logic to kind of answer. Odinson says,
it will be faster,
I don't know, like I can understand why it was asked, but like I just think it's kind of weak with the vagueness they've already answered it with. Like to ask them to double down is going to be a bit weird.
It's almost like asking why buy an expanse when I can go to a station.
But there's obviously a lot of people that want it answered, but like see things like this. So when you see face palms, this is people like. People laughing, like generally they're just Will the expanse have a stable storage for volatile ore? I.e., if I put some Quantanium into the expanse's raw ore, will the destruction time halt or continue? So how do you quantify that? Because for me, wouldn't you just refine it and it's not volatile anymore?
Yeah, I think the question is, what stages do we have to go to get Quantanium fuel? Is it just we need to process Quantanium so it's no longer volatile and then mix it with hydrogen in a stuff error? Possible. Does it automatically turn it into Quantanium fuel? That aspect we don't know, but I would expect you put that, whether you're making it into a gas or whether you're making it stable, when you refine the raw Quantanium, it becomes a stable ore at the bare minimum. So yeah, to me that's again, think about it. It seems obvious.
Yeah, and the next one here seems obvious to me as well. What are the benefits of using a refinery ship compared to a stationary refinery besides the travel factor? Oh, because it's active and you don't have to like look at Pyro. Like it might take you an hour to travel back at Pyro. Like and you'd have to cut all the inert material back with you. In this case, you're just refining it and taking back just what you need. Isn't that obvious?
That's a huge benefit. That's a massive benefit. Even at the moment, even though the mole on the prospector is supposed to be able to take out some of the inert material, they don't get rid of all of it. And even that's not in at the moment.
This kind of proves my point about Spectrum too. We've got the same person asking 2 questions in the top 4 questions. Because he was on the page first. You can actually look there on the right and you can see April 15th at 12:13, April 15th at 12:14. So just who turns up first gets their questions answered. It's just a bit broken to me.
And that question, you're not taking your material back, so you're not taking 25% of your cargo or 10% of your cargo as useless material. When you refine it, you're actually condensing what you've got into more valuable material, so you're actually able to carry back twice as much or 3 times as much valuable cargo without the inert. That's the value.
This next one's been answered.
No brainer.
Can we have a mini game for refining gameplay? Well, they've said it is a mini game. It's an active mini game. And then basically he's asking, can we have some details about it? Well, they'll obviously tell you about that at some point when they're ready.
Well, based on the normal rules, that one gets obliterated because it's one question per per thing. So that's a
Well, shows
an
you
answer.
the moderators are not doing their job because it hasn't been deleted.
Yep.
Will we be able to initiate refining process and store the expanse at an ASOP terminal without interrupting the refining process? We'll be able to initiate refining process and store
Yeah.
the
So
expanse.
question is, will it be like the factory is at the moment where we start a refining process and then leave it, or will it be something we do hands-on? My understanding is that the ship's refining process is a hands-on thing. So you might have to double check things at times. It's not, and they might go the factory process idea, but the idea I got when listening to Dan Truffin was it was a hands-on mini game process.
I read that more like I read this more like if you're halfway through processing, can you instantly take it from the refinery and continue processing it in the station refinery? That's how I read that question, but what you said makes sense as well.
I read it as, can I be refining, log off my ship, leave it there, and it still keeps cycling that refining process.
This next one I think is the best question so far, but I think he needed to go further with what he said. What materials can be refined? Because I think we kind of need confirmation that it does the liquid and gas. Because man, I've had so many arguments with people about the liquid and gas stuff. But again, with what Dan Truffin said, that's the only thing you can fall back on, and he literally said they can take in liquid, gas, and solids, and they can output as liquid, gas, and solids. So this expanse, if it's only got containers for ore, where's the containers for liquid and gas? And I think it does have them on that ship because there's things that make it look like tanks, but till we get it confirmed. Is it compatible with the mole and the rock? Well, the rock's the more interesting one there, I think. I think it's obviously compatible with the mole because of the saddlebags, but what about the rock, Algared? How do you see that working?
Yeah, unless there's that little ramp area, have a door that goes into the refinery with a little chute you can pour stuff into.
Manual entry. Yeah, okay. I never thought
manual entry, manual depositing of little bags of. Because the rock doesn't have any storage bags, so that's an interesting one. That's actually one I don't think many people have really thought about.
Yeah, the rock part of that this is superfluous because we know it takes. It even says in the thing that it takes standard containers, so that was literally telling everyone that it uses the mole's compatible. This, however, is more interesting.
That doesn't use standard containers; it uses the regular boxes. So yeah.
Will there ever be supplies required for refining, like the gases and liquids? Yeah, we've talked about this too. Like there's inputs on top of the refinerings, and if you look up again how refining works in the real world at the moment, we do just to let you guys know, we do have an episode coming on refining professional point of view. So we've actually got some people that know stuff about refining, and they're going to talk about how that works, multi-stage processes. We actually found some really interesting things out while doing that, like preparing for that episode, and I brought it to Algared's attention. There's a potential for 7 more ships that we didn't even know about. Me and Algared, like, look, potential. We don't want to point that out, but we're going to do an episode on what those 7 ships could be. And this is just based on, how they said that you'd have a ship in every size category. So small, medium, large, capital. And that's like filling out the refinery tree. And yeah, and we'll explain some other stuff there. But yeah, it's just really interesting because I was like, wait, we know of 5 of them and there's 7 more. Like what? But yeah, so that could be interesting as well.
And that all depends on how they do, how detailed they go into the refining.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And I suppose harvesting or mining. And based on what we're seeing, the way they're doing minerals, if they've gone minerals so extensively, I cannot see them doing refining or harvesting liquids or gases any differently.
Yeah. So
just like everything.
We can definitely look at some of the ships that would be there. And the funny thing is, because of how some of them are structured, you can actually figure out what some of them are going to do. Like how we've been saying for months that land mining is a thing. And so many people didn't believe us, but then we got it confirmed through a Q&A. If you go back to the EU feature team a couple of weeks ago, 20 minutes and 33 seconds, they literally asked the question, is underground mining still a thing? And they literally answer, yeah, it's still a thing. And because of that, where you've got just very quickly, you've got the prospector that does everything, including the underground mining. The mole at the moment doesn't really land and mine, so that can't do it. And the Orion dominates space and does all that stuff. So therefore, that last ship, that large one, chances are that's a planetary miner that's going to land and mine and specialize in mining this underground stuff. Plus, it'll also most likely land on asteroids and stuff. But that's just logical because you've got to have, all those different steps, and they all have weaknesses and strengths. It's that same thing. We can take that and apply it to the refining, and we can apply it to liquid and gas. And as I said, there's 7 ships there that we just didn't know. And we'll go into that in an episode and show you guys. But obviously, most of it's going to be speculation, but it's still very, very credible. I'll leave it at that. Next question here, Algared, is the Expanse limited refining just ore, or can it refine other materials such as hydrogen? See, almost asked the question, but doesn't. Liquid and gas. That's because that's the same as the one back up here. What material can it refine? That's the same question, but they just don't go into the liquid and gas stuff. Yeah. Is there having a single small shield as shown on the matrix is accurate as how is justified a medium ship with but why would I care about a shield? Dude, the thing's got size 1 guns. It is clearly an industrial ship. This is it's probably the most industrial we've seen.
If you're looking at something, if you're looking at anything with just size 1 guns, A, it's not a fighter. B, it's not a combat ship. C, if you're out there by yourself and you get attacked, you're dead.
Yeah.
So unless you're super heavily armored, super heavy shield, and super quick ability to charge up your quantum and run, don't even worry about it because, yeah.
I don't quite understand this question, Algared. It says, good afternoon. Could you explain the broad terms how the sack system would work when the refined material is deposited? Would they be interchangeable? Is he talking about how they're that
He's
one?
Talking about the bags.
Yeah, that bag flies off and the next one unpacks. Is that what he's talking about? Like that?
I have a feeling. So the idea, how does does the prospector re-get its bags back? How does all of that type of stuff? And I have a feeling it's something like
it's not a bad question.
If those ships don't, if the prospector and the mole don't have tractor beams, you're going to be you'll have a crew member out there using a hand tractor beam to pull your bags back.
Yeah,
I imagine
I
can't see it any other way.
We're pretty sure they're stored in the back door of the Expanse. We're pretty sure that's what that is, and then they're either handed back to a prospector when he sees them again, or something like that. Because there had to be one ship that we're going to store them, and if the prospector's got a couple it can hold on to, there has to be something else for the other one.
And it could and the prospect, like there's that issue with the prospector's 64 SC of cargo versus 128 SC of cargo, and the question is it just like, and in fact the next question there, the total capacity cargo by Mick, by Tickle
my nips,
or whatever it is.
Tickle my nips.
Yeah, tickle my nips. That's basically that question is it 64 SC of cargo or 128, and it could be like the prospector, which was basically the same, and the difference in those weights is based on extra bags, extra storage bags.
Well, I think it's also like last week how the 8 SCU of cargo counts to 64, and in the Reclaimer and some other ships there's specialized cargo that's not listed. I still think this is the liquid and gas.
And that's the question we don't know. Is it like the Reclaimer with its 2 types of cargo, or is it like the Prospector with that and spare bags for cargo? And that's the question we don't know. And I think that's a good question, but because we just don't know.
Let's answer some of the questions people have asked us, and then we'll go back to some more. So Go Mitch yourself says, so when you refine on the Expanse, you have to fly to Lawville to sell and then back to the mining fleet. Well, not necessarily. What if you drop off your refined goods in the saddlebags and say Hull A picks them up? And the Hull A is constantly just doing the cargo runs, as an example.
And which, if you go and have a look at the Prospector Q&A, the bags on the Prospector are stated in that as being compatible with the Hull series.
Hull A, Hull A specifically.
Yeah.
And they all carry 64 SCU.
Sorry, Algared.
In
In that question on the
they all state that
Oh.
they carry the same amount of cargo. So that's really interesting as well.
But when they were doing the prospector thing,
Mhm.
all the cargo bags are compatible with all the hull series. Was
Yep.
the answer?
Oh yeah. Sorry, across the board, yes.
So,
but it does say
so
there's
across
a.
the board.
It says there's a special relationship between the prospector and the hull A, though. Some
but-
words to that effect, anyway. Yeah.
But if that's true of a prospector on the hull, and it's true of a prospector and the expanse, it's then also true of the expanse and the hull.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think I said last week, all three of those ships, the hull A, the prospector, and the expanse, make a really good, I think, 3-man mining, refining, take the market team.
We are going to have to do that episode sooner than later, because there's things I want to talk about, like from those ships that we found, that it could be a real possibility. And this next question kind of leans to that as well. So Viratan P asks, where do you see the Orion refiner matching up to the Expanse and Station? I would just say sheer volume. Where's that picture that someone linked? I can't remember who the hell linked that. Give me a second. Someone linked me this picture during the week, right? And it's literally, actually, I know who it was. Give me a second. Was this?
Well, while you're doing that,
No, I got it. Just give me a second. I'll be.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's not that person. It was someone else. I can't remember who it was. So someone linked me this picture, and it's basically the prospector next to the Orion. A single saddlebag on the Orion is like you could fit 4 prospectors in it. Like it's that big. Like the thing is huge. But I'd have to find it.
and I think as you said, it's a sheer quantity of it. But I think the refining ability of the
here it
will
is.
be kind of, it may not be as good as.
I found it. So this is it here. Like I'll just download the image. But look at that. That's insane, is it not? Like if that's to scale, that is crazy. You're talking about
is that the old?
I don't know, but he was
the old Orion or the new Orion.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the point I'm trying to get at is he said the Expanse and the Pioneer compared to the Orion. Well, it's eating them for breakfast, literally. Like look at the size difference. That's just crazy. There's no way they're going to compete or compare.
If the Expanse gets too close to that grinder at the front, it might.
I just realized
become part of the,
I don't have the browser view on, so no one had any idea what we were talking about, but that's fine. But look at that. That's insane. That's the little.
And if that little prospector or Expanse gets up near those grinders, they'll be refined.
Yeah. So that's that's crazy.
I think it is the size matter, and I think the fact that it can do processing, even if it doesn't do as good as a station, the sheer quantity and amount is just.
Let us know.
Oh,
Viratan P, just let us know if that answers your question, because I think it really clearly shows it very clearly. Like the Orion is just gonna. There's no contest there at all. Like none.
And when they sold the Orion, it was being sold as like a mining platform. It wasn't just a ship. It was basically a full mining platform.
That was me saying hello to Blamsmith, by the way. Every time I say mine, it's go. Anyway, next question. Del asks, is the Expanse refining minigame based on beams like every other minigame? No, like, again, like we said last week, I think a lot of it's got to do with the impurities and stuff, but having talked to a couple of the refining guys, they also think it's got a lot to do with processing. So basically, you have a lot of heat and a lot of chemical reactants and stuff like that. And they think that's what it's going to be. This camera is getting worse, Algared. I'm going to have to look at this. This is getting really bad. I'm having to restart it every 5 minutes. Really bad. Well, they say it's got something to do. So when I've looked it up on Google, they said it's got a lot to do with it overheating. And the people that had this problem, they had to buy a whole new camera. So I'm worried that I've got to go and buy a whole new one. But we'll talk about that later. W. Allen asks, about hangars, do you think we will be able to hire NPCs as personal hangar crew?
That will load and unload and repair. Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
So I didn't quite. Okay, you said something else there, and I couldn't compute what he was saying. But yeah, I just thought there'd be
to have hangar crew.
I just think there'll be a part of
load, offload, and repair the ships.
I just think there'll be a part of the station. They will just come into your hangar off the station and do what you need to do, and then leave.
But there used to be the older backers, the the early concierge backers used to ask, their reward was things like an NPC janitor just walked around the station, just walked around your hangar cleaning, so Ferency, we are looking at the Q&A for the
expanse.
for the refining ship and seeing how close we could answer them. We're doing any other things as well.
It can be any topic. We always try and have something just to kickstart the conversation. So yeah. And someone asked the question about like how will the pioneering expanse compared to the Orion? And I think you can say in this picture right here, it clearly answers it.
They don't.
They don't.
A fleet of expanses and pioneers maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, but when you got 5 to 8 people to run this,
and you need a fleet of 10 to 15 or 20 or 30 to kind of get the same cargo, yeah.
That kind of like people go, why do you guys always recommend big ships? There's your answer right there, because just economics of scale, they just don't fit. Like what's that? $575 of Orion. You try and take $575 of Pioneers and Expanse. You've basically got what's that? 2 Pioneers and 2 Expanses at best, I think. Or maybe a little more.
140, 160, 148 or something like that at the moment. So that's, if you're looking 540, you're not even looking at 2 each. So.
Yep.
Yeah. As you said, the scale, it just doesn't scale.
That's right, Alan. We understood what you meant. That's all good.
I understood exactly what you were saying, Alan, so that was cool. Grave Peril. His question was, space is cold. Would the gas liquids be solid?
Well, that's why we think liquids and gas they fundamentally fall under the same thing. Because like if you think about how they do gas in cars today, if you put gas in, it can go in as a gas, but it literally solidifies as a liquid. When you push gas together, it turns into a liquid. So if you also look at the Starfarer's only got 2 containers on it. It's got the round circular, so it's either spheres or tubulars, and then normal cargoes or solids are square. So we're thinking that's a theme because it just kind of signifies what they are. And if you look at the hand cargo too, whenever we've seen liquid cargo at the moment, it's spherical, and then normal boxes are square. So we think that's going to be a theme going through, solids and liquids and gas are going to have their 2. Just so you can tell, oh, that's a liquid gas container. Oh, that's a solid container instantly. Square versus circles.
It's like you look at a shield generator and you say, oh, that's a shield generator. You look at it, because of when they're in a shop, they've all got the same unique look or style to them.
Forensic saying in chat, I think it's safe to say that mining is the backbone of the SC economy. It is more than you know after what I found out this week in that refining episode. Let's just say, if you think mining with the Orion is a thing, there is another whole chain of mining that we haven't even. The only thing in game right now that mines gas is the Starfarer. There's a whole other tree that we didn't even think of. Let's just put it that way. So you start putting your hats on and start thinking of all the other the gas mining ships, and you can understand where I'm going. And we're going to go through in that episode and talk about it.
And if you also think of the need for oxygen on stations to replenish oxygen, so just start thinking of how do you replenish. Yeah, the old water, break down the water into hydrogen and oxygen.
And this is all connected with Quanta as well. So everything you're going to need, the quantum system is going to be doing, and we're going to be able to do everything. And we're going to be able to do everything that they can do in Quanta. So you work everything back, like as Algared said, oxygen, water, food, chefs, everything. So you can see all the farming, you can see all the mining, and you can start. The other crazy thing is, the more we've been doing this with the professional people, is there's people that I thought would never need to talk to another person. As in, this person here for mining wouldn't need to talk to someone for farming. There is things that they share in common that find out other professions. It's really weird. I didn't.
The other answer to Grave Peril's one about isn't space cold? Now, someone says, well, space is an insulator. But also, even if it is cold, aren't there chemicals that have, that react in the cold, so endothermic reactions, as opposed to, whatever the heat ones are.
Yep.
So yeah, it all depends on the type of reaction and how it works.
So this has been answered too, because it literally says this in the thing that you can do that. You can store it in the saddlebags before refining it. It literally says that in the the Q&A thing.
Yeah,
So
the
that's already
Q&A.
been answered. And just so for those of you that can't read it, it says, is the
So,
expanse
and
is the expanse able to hold raw ore in waiting beyond the 6 jobs that it can run at once? If so, will it automatically start new jobs in waiting? Well, that kind of implies why it's got 8 bags. You can have 2 in waiting and then move them around and stuff like that.
Yep.
Regret Heart asks, how does a player who has both Prospector and Expanse use them? With a friend. That's really obvious.
Yep.
More precise description, a lone wolf player who already owns a Prospector, what are the benefits of buying Expanse? I don't think there will be one if you're trying to go fully solo, Algared, do you? Because you got to go back to get it up. You got to go back to pick it up. So by the time you go back to pick it up, like, you might as well just take it to the station and get the station to do it.
The only reason, if you're a solo player, the only reason to get one is I can't. The only way I could think of when we were talking about it the other day is if you really like the idea of refining, and the only advantage for you as a solo player would be take your Expanse down to a planet, buy the raw materials, refine them, and then take them back. So, but yeah, it's if you already own a Prospector and you love mining, and you're a lone wolf, the Expanse is not valuable to you. It really comes down to that, how many ships do you actually need to play? How many game packs do you need? You only need one ship, that's it.
So Tyler Wen obviously didn't see the image that literally shows this sucking the stuff out of the bag into the back of the Expanse. So again, another superfluous question. This is
a three phrase one.
This is literally the epitome of why we need downvote arrows, because people are lazy and they don't go look for the stuff for themselves, so they just want them answered.
Well, I could see the second part of that question. Is this the only way to get raw material into the Expanse? That, in a sense, relates to the rock question, because the bags go that way. What about the rocks material? How do you get that in? So,
yeah.
So I can give it some legs, but yeah, it's
we're like we haven't even gone through a page, and I'd have to say 90% of these questions you could literally answer with just basic.
Fit on a Liberator? Who cares?
Yeah. Will it fit on Liberator? Yes, it does. Yeah. This damn camera, man. What the hell? It is
how long does it? How long does the refining process take compared to station-based refining? Well, that's already a second question. We've already got that one.
Yeah, from the top. Oh, but it's by someone we know, Rabid Crabs.
Yep.
I know this dude. Will quantum stabilization occur when it is transferred to the Expanse or refining? So what? Yeah, that's obvious, because once it's refined, it doesn't break down anymore. Is there a system being planned for changing someone's UEC for processed ore, like the Starfarer refueling someone, or is it more of a buy ore from someone, process, and then sell materials to someone else? I'd assume you'd be buying it from them directly, wouldn't you, Algared?
Yep. I would assume that in the same way that you can take your Expanse down to a planet and buy your raw materials, you'll equally be able to go up to a mining vehicle and buy the ore off them, and they'd do some form of docking or whatever process to set that up. But yeah.
So this guy's question here leads back to why does it say 64 SCU, and then here it says 120 on the sales page. And again, I think that leads back to that there might be hidden liquid and gas containers.
And then their second question, does it fit in the Odyssey?
Actually, when Grim did it, I watched it. So Grim did a stream after we did our stream, about 2 hours after ours, and it didn't look like it quite fit, but makes a lot of sense that it does. Like and it says it's meant to fit on a small pad, and that thing's meant to be Dimetrics for a small pad, so I assume it would, but because he was manually scaling the ships too, so I don't know. But based on what they tell us, if it's on a small pad, that therefore it should fit in the Expanse. It's that simple, because everything's Dimetrics now. So I've just noticed here, Rapid Crabs, just what I was saying about before, like multiple people get questions early and they all stay in the top 10. This is all just proving the point of what I'm trying to say here. Look, he's got 3 questions on the first page.
Yeah.
Is the ship players can fill up to refine and leave it out a safe location in space by itself for some time to return to later? So he's basically asking, can I use this as a solo player? Yeah, you can, but if it gets found, it's going to get destroyed once scanning is in.
And I think that even tied up with that question, can I log off? Could I take it out, go to a safe location, log off, come back later, and in that time it's been logged off, it's refined. So is that what he's asking? I'm not sure, but yeah, my gut feeling is
you can see why Algared and I don't normally talk about Q&As, because there's so many questions in here that are just so damn lazy. Like,
and repeated.
Yeah. Will the expanse be capable of refining material from the Argo metal? Yes, because it uses the same saddlebags. All you have to do is read the sales page, and it says that. Will the explosion size of the ship change with how much refined materials inside? Well, yeah, of course, over time, but not initially in the first release. Once they get back to doing effects and stuff, of course they may explode bigger. Will consumable fuels, catalysts, and reagents be required for some of their processes? Well, that's a good question. I actually like that one. That's a good question.
And I would like to think yes.
Yes.
And that'll be that. And those processes will be kind of money sinks, because if you then stuff up your refining process, you've lost that catalyst you've purchased. So
this is another lazy question that doesn't use any logic. So he's basically asking, because in this prospect image they show how the saddlebag system works, right, and that you can see the spare bags and stuff. But to answer his own question, he asks basically, will it work the same? But no, they don't have any spare bags on the Expanse. They only have the one, and that's it. So no, it doesn't work.
Well, that's that question again with that 64 SCU versus 128. Does it have extra bags, or is it? It's that question we don't really know the answer to 100%. Is it storage like a reclaimer? Is it storage like a prospector? Yeah. Is that how that 128 SCU is going? So that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a
will it fit? A will it fit question? A will it fit question, Algared? I don't think I'll even dignify that with an answer, because I hate will it fit questions. They're just stupid. Like, is there any reason why you'd want to put an Expanse in a capital ship when you can, instead of having the capital ship, you can have like the Orion or something? I've never quite understood why people ask all these questions about what will fit inside stuff, because I don't know. Algared, what's your thoughts on that? What capital ships will the Expanse fit inside? What do you have to say about that question?
I think people are wanting that because they're looking at their capital ships as being a base for their whole group, and so they want to know which ships that can go there. I could see it working with a Carrack, not a Carrack, a Kraken.
Yeah.
Landing on the station, and then miners being able to bring materials there, and the Kraken being able to the storage base where you're doing that. But then that sense, the Expanse could be out with the miners and then just bringing it to the reclaimer
the Kraken can just go to the mining field, And
then if it's because it's got stores, you could even then maybe sell it on the stores as well. So who knows how that would have worked.
Yeah, there is something definitely wrong with my setup here today, guys. Sorry about that. I have no idea what's going on. I'm literally...
Okay, let's see. While you're doing that, Stir says, why, as a slow industrial ship, does it have two forward-pointing guns and not a defensive remote turret? Because reasons.
Look, honestly, this ship is gonna, you think about how the ship's gonna be at work. It's already saying that it's tied to a prospector, so you're gonna be near another ship, right? You're in a mini fleet straight off the bat. Even if it's just you and a prospector, it's a mini fleet. So them rocking up, it's two ships versus one straight off the bat.
Admittedly, it's two ships with two size ones. That's the thing that rocks up. So,
but again, it's telling you that you should probably have a fighter escort as well.
Yep.
It's encouraging that group gameplay straight away. Make some friends.
Or having your friend drop off turn up in their Nautilus and drop off all the defensive mines to help defend you as you're mining. So, but yes, it is really stressing the idea that this is a multiplayer game, and yes, you can play MMOs solo, and you can have lots of fun playing them solo, but they're geared and focused on that group gameplay. And that's something from my memory that Chris has always wanted. He wanted a game where you and your mates would want to play and hang out together and do things together. And so you want activities where it's not one person doing everything else, everyone else sitting there going, yeah, I'm bored. You want things that everyone can do.
So this is how long is this piece of string question? How much money will a typical refining job cost? Well, how much are you refining? What process are you using? What are you actually refining? So again, stupid question, in my book.
And
it's too vague.
In answer to frequencies, Algared Kraken does not have stores. You mean a privateer. Kraken is a privateer.
Yeah,
It's just a different variation of it.
I read that and I thought exactly the same thing. Yeah, I was like, it's a variant. It is a Kraken. Will you be able to buy raw resources from the NPCs and refine those instead of relying on? Yeah, that's a good question. I'll actually pay that. So will we? We'll assume if you put out the call, wouldn't an NPC technically turn up if you're in? See, that actually goes back to the solvability of the question up the top, where we just blatantly said no. But now I think about it, if the Quanta is in, couldn't NPCs turn up wanting their shit refined because you do it cheaper?
Yeah, and it does go into that. If I go down to a station, well, I think it goes into that. I go down to a station or an outpost and I buy the materials. Isn't that any different from that buying from an NPC?
Yeah.
So having NPCs turn up is just an extension of that. So I don't see a problem with it. So I'd like to hope that's the case, rather than saying no or yes. I'd like to hope that is the case. But yeah. Batman Who Laughs was the next one there.
Batman Who Laughs. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you really give the ship a meager 1x size 1 shield? As if we believe Misk would intentionally make this ship into a loot pinata. The answer is yes, they did.
I
don't think that was actually a question. It's more a statement.
Yeah, it's so many wasted questions. Like. Would I like to know this? Yeah, potentially, but like, there's so many things above this.
But is that really a question? It's really a gripe. It's really a, did you really do it? Well, yes, they did, because that's what they've put it out as. So
this is like
I don't get it.
This is like the fourth question that this guy's got on the first page too. So this one is the difference between what is the difference between the Zion inspired tractor beam and a regular tractor beam? It's probably blue instead of green. It'll be like a color change, if anything.
But it is linked to that question that I've made about, I made it with the Expanse, and it was nice to hear them say, hey, it does have that Xeon tech.
What would you think that
what makes it better?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Algared. I was thinking it's probably like more power efficient or something like that.
Yeah. And that is apparently the thing with Xeon tech. They're supposed to be more efficient and running things. So, but at least I at least didn't feel as frustrated by that as I did when they said, "Oh, the Expanse has got Xeon lift and Xeon gravity generator," because they were the main selling points. Whereas the Expanse, it's not a main selling point, but it's got a Xeon tractor beam. It's got a tractor beam that just happens to be Xeon. But
Lonix Leaf's there in chat, guys. Go check out his channel. He's got some good. He's doing some of his own CCU chain videos and stuff like that. He's got some good little videos that he's doing. Very small channel. He's only got about 230, I think, subscribers or something like that. But he's got some really good videos that I've liking what he's been doing. So yeah, go check him out. Let us know what you think of him. Yeah, and hello Linux. So
certainly something we've been looking at doing with over years. We've been saying we really need to condense that down, and Linux seems to have basically.
Yeah, he did a nice little CCU chaining guide video, and I think he explained it fairly well. Got one or two little things wrong from my perspective, but like I would say 9 out of 10 if I was to rate the video type of thing. So yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah. What are we up to next? What's the next one, Algared? I think we're only going to do this first page, by the way, because I'm going to say I'm pretty salty reading this.
I'm not even sure Sergio would go beyond the first page myself either.
Yeah.
So, they consider they're not questions. Like we're down to 36 votes. So
yeah, I think it's.
And they go for the ones that are the top 10. So
yeah. So Phaedron says, will refining process continue while the player is offline? Well, no, because they've said it's an active process. They actually said that. Dan Truffin said that. I'm just going to rapid fire through these last ones. Algared, if you want to say something, speak up. Will refineries use Expanse only be refineries for solid ore, or will they be eventually capable of refining fuel? Well, that's everything. That's it has to, because they've already said it does Quantanium. So will there and
if refineries are refineries and the Starfarer has 3 of them, that answers your question. So yeah.
Oh, something I want to talk to you about that too. Anyway, will there be a comprehensive design posted on refining for the field suture similar to mining? Obviously, yeah, they do need that. That's a good question. How does this ship fit into solo style gameplay? Well, we kind of talked about that before. The brochure illustrates show tractor beam pod loading from space 0G. Is it possible the pod to load on a planet side when gravity is in fact? Yeah, of course. You just use a tractor beam to do it. There's a tractor beam on the back of the ship.
Yep.
Any use to pair this up with a vulture? Can it melt or refine scrap into other materials? I still think this is going to be a thing, but I'm almost suspecting the next ship up, Algared, might not use the like it might have like a manual intake. You know what I mean? Like kind of like how the Prospect has that manual intake on the back. And maybe you know, that's how a lot of the vehicles get their stuff done. But yeah, I would really like to know if this can do manual stuff besides just pods, because you can imagine if you got to sit there and land everything by hand into a pod just to be able to put it into the expanse. It's a bit silly. But yeah.
Yeah, and the question, you know, once the vulture or the salvage ships have crunched up the material and put into bags or whatever it is, does that need to be refined more, and how do you refine it more, and is there a different refinery system for that? So that's not a bad question. But is it necessarily valuable for the expanse? I don't know.
Okay, this is gonna be the last question I read, because this is how stupid it's got, right? Will the expanse share cargo containers with the Orion also, or is the refinery synergy designed to only work with the mole prospector sizes? I'm just going to drop this image here, and you guys can answer that question for yourself. I think that is an utterly ridiculous question, but when one saddlebag on this is 4 times the size of an actual the entire ship. And there goes my camera again. Yeah, I'm having some kind of serious issue today. I'm gonna have to unplug all this and plug it all back in again. Anyway.
All right, let's have a look at some of these questions. Hangar size, do you think? No. Okay, space is cold. How will capital ships like the Kraken be able to interact with ships like the Prospector and Expanse? I think you'll.
Where are we up to?
In cargo bay. We're up to Modad.
No.
How will capital ships
what about
like the Kraken be able to interact with ships like the Prospector?
We didn't answer the one before that. Space is cold. Would
yes,
gas it be? I don't remember answering that. Well,
we did answer that one.
Very quickly, I'm just going to say with one thing: gas nebula, gas planets.
And that was the one I was referring to. Depends on what type of reaction the chemical is. Is it an endothermic reaction? In which case it reacts with cold. So.
All right, Modad then.
Or does it give off cold or whatever? So yeah.
I'll let you do the Modad one.
How will capital ships like the Kraken be able to interact with ships like the Prospector and Expanse? Will the pods be disconnected and emptied into the cargo bay? Or yeah. There'll be some form of transfer of material. Don't know. I can't answer it.
I'd imagine like we know that it's 8 SCU worth of cargo. So if you take that standard container that you're carrying at the moment, that's 1 SCU. So you just work that out as 8. That is literally the next box up, because you'd have 4 along the bottom and then 4 on top of that. So that's a square box. So literally the next cargo, you know, box size up goes from 1 to 8. It's pretty illogical. So you can see how that's going to fit in a lot of the ships straight off the bat. And then you'd have to assume somewhere along the line there's one that's 24 SCU, because that's 4 times, you know.
Oh, we know there's a 32 SCU.
Sorry, 32, not 24. My bad. Sorry, 32. Yep. So yeah, you get what I mean. Like, you can see how they're scaling them up. I would imagine there is a way though to somehow take them out of the saddlebag and put them into a standard cargo box. But maybe that's a special ability of the next one up. We just don't know. So yeah, there are always question marks there.
Given that and this is going way back to the Prospector's Q&A, where they said that saddlebags on the Prospector are compatible with the hull series, and that meant that they were standard SCU cargo containers. So that, whether they look the same, whether, you know, I don't think that really matters in terms of that question. It's a question of can you do it, and the answer is yes, they can. So But what it'll look like, your guess is as good as mine.
I'm trying to answer that next question because, as I said, I was watching. I'm just going to link this in chat. It might be easy to do it this way. So Starjump, after we did our show last week, did this, and he did a stream, and basically he was pulling it up and trying. If you're really into how all that stuff works, like what the Expanse can fit into that, he goes through all that and he shows all the different ships. He does pull up a Liberator at some point, and that's what I'm trying to find. And he chucks it on the back of the Liberator, and it pretty much fits. Like it fits.
And so Execute's trying to find the information to answer Fabi 1908's question, which is, do you think the Expanse will fit in the Liberator? If you look at Fleet View, it seems to fit, and it says it's a small ship, but it's pretty big for a small one. What is your view on it?
I also think if they fold up as well, it makes the ship thinner, which I think it will make it fit in more things. I'm just trying to find the image. I just can't find it. But yeah, he did a stream for about 2 hours. And
if you watch Starjump's Grim discusses the Expanse while testing my stream setup, you will find that.
Oh,
as part of the answer.
I actually found it.
You think you found it?
Yep. So I'm just pulling it up to an rough image of where it was. Hang on, I'll flip this back over the browser. So hang on, I got to press the right button. But this is what he had. So you can see Grim sitting there in his sexy silver look. But yeah, you can see the Expanse there sitting on the back, and that's not with the arms folded up yet either. So yeah, I think that kind of answers your question there, man. But yeah,
if the arms do fold up, then yes, it'll fit.
Yeah, but definitely go check out Grim's stuff, because he's very unique where he's able to, put the models into a model viewer and basically put textures on them. And just having textures on them, you can see so much stuff that you didn't pick up before. So, and I was in chat annoying the shit out of him the whole way, going, do this for me, do this for me, do this for me. Trying to get questions answered that I had. So yeah. Yeah, he's very handy like that. But he'll probably, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, he'll probably kick off another stream in a couple of hours. I don't know. I could shoot a question out.
And he'll probably pop in here at some point and say hi anyway.
Yeah.
At least in the chat. Sebastian has a question. His question is, in regards to Squadron 42 and the UEE Navy, what do you think a UEE cruiser or battle cruiser might be like? And would you like it, or what would you like it to be? Tougher than an Idris, better than a Javelin. And just think of it, a Javelin is a destroyer. Cruisers and battle cruisers tend to be bigger than destroyers, and battle cruisers tend to be basically the same armament as a battleship, but
sorry, Algared, just real quick, are we talking about the Pegasus? Is that what we're talking about?
No, we're talking about the Pegasus as a carrier, not a cruiser.
So what's the cruiser one then? What's the cruiser one?
The cruiser is back in, if you go back to way back to the stretch goals, there was a
are you talking about the Retribution? I wanted the name of it.
And I think that, well, that just says, what the question is in regards to Squadron 42. What is a cruiser and a battle cruiser, and what would we like them to be like? And I just said they're big. They're going to be bigger than a Javelin.
So you're talking. This is the image I was looking for. So this is the type of thing you're talking about. Hang on. So that's the Retribution, yeah. That's the real big stuff.
That would be a battleship.
That's the one we're talking about, yeah. So this to me seems like it's got this massive railgun and stuff on it. What was the other one you talked about? Cruiser and battle cruiser. Man, I do not know them as cruisers and battle cruisers. I know them as like Bengal, Retribution, Pegasus. So you'll have to tell me which one's which.
Because they haven't made them yet.
Oh, okay. But
you've got to go back to the stretch goals Execute, where they talked about there will be a. You've got the carrier in the Pegasus, which is a light carrier. You've got the the battleship. Well, I consider the Retribution a battleship rather than a cruiser or a battle cruiser. But Javelin is your destroyer. A cruiser and a battle cruiser will be bigger and tougher than a Javelin. Cruisers tend to be, or used to be, the big ship that have speed and big weapons. Battle cruisers tend to have the weapons of a battleship, but the armor of a cruiser,
right?
Which gave them speed. So And that's looking, very generalistically about how they were, or the definitions. How CIG define those ships is your guess as good as mine. So, but I'd like them to be at least tougher than a Javelin. And would I like to own one? Yes, but will we?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to find that like I'm probably out of those, the one I'm personally most interested in is the Pegasus, just because of the all the ships that are going to fly off it. It really is that fighter deployer type thing, and it reminds me a lot of Battlestar Galactica, the Battlestar.
I would like a Pegasus more than a Kraken, to be honest. I'd gladly ditch my Kraken in favour of the Pegasus.
I don't think there's any ship that's that size for players. I think that's yeah. And the closest you're going to get is the Kraken at the moment.
And the Pegasus is RSI rather than Drake, and I liked RSI rather than Drake, so hence my preference there. So moving right along, Cobra 9 Delta has a question. He says, with 15-minute time limit before quantum goes critical, how do you see the mining and refining process evolving now that we have to add in the prospect expanse material transfer?
It's active and it's faster, so it just removes it completely. Because if you also, if it's there right next to you, you just take it straight out of the ship and put it straight into the refinery. It refines it straight away. Problem is solved.
And the timer only starts the second you vacuum the quantum up into your ship. So you mine it all and then you suck it up and transfer the bag across. And there are six reactors on the Prospector, so on the Expanse, so you could have six individual loads of quantum being
if that's what you would do, if that's what you were doing, you could definitely do that. I just sort of see that as a given. Like, am I being dumb about this? Like, I don't. Some of the questions I don't get. Sorry, but like to me, it's just a given. Like, if you've got to take it back to the refinery to get refined, and when you refine it, it stops. Therefore, if you take it from the Prospector and put it into the refinery ship, it just stops because it's refined and it's no longer explosive or volatile.
And that process of transferring it from the Prospector to the Expanse is in most cases going to be less time than the distance from the Prospector going to station. So
100%, especially when you do it with a tractor beam, you're literally like, it's going to drop it, you're going to suck it straight over, suck it straight out,
straight into your processing plant.
What, 30 seconds?
Well, even if it's 5 minutes, it's still, it's still a lot quicker than going to the station in some cases. So, Veriton P has a question. Veriton P says, not a question, but it's an answer. My stream is a bit behind. It did answer the question. So, okay. Mongo Mo has a question. They say regarding big ships, has there been any update on NPC Crew? No, not that I'm aware of.
Not at the moment. But like
any updates on how? Go on.
I was just saying, not at the moment, but you've got to imagine that that's all going to be in the interest of time. And the other thing is, like you think of it from a coding perspective, are you actually going to have an NPC sitting there playing that mini game, or are they just going to be like filling up a bar, and it's based on their star rating and how good they are? Like, okay, so if they're shit, it takes 5 minutes, and if they're good, it takes a minute. They're going to fake all that. They don't need to have the NPC playing the mini game. They can have it playing it. They can have it playing the animations, so it looks like they're doing it. But it can be all fake. That's the best part about it. So they don't. The only thing they have to do realistically is when they do things that need to be done realistic, like using a turret. But like if they're just playing a mini game, obviously something more like another one that'd be difficult is if you actually had an NPC picking up the saddlebags, for example, or pulling asteroids in front of an Orion or something like that. That's going to require more skill. But again, if you know where they're going from A to B, I don't think that's that hard to do either, because you basically find this, and here's your target over here. Like that's not like if you put a ship between there, obviously it's going to take the rock straight through the ship. Like, but if you're deliberately stuffing with it, it's your own fault.
and I think, but in terms of NPC Crew, that links to that are things like the NavMev for NPC being able to move around outside of stations or outposts.
Mm.
So that's part of it. The second part of his question is, again, we haven't really got any more answers on it, and it's really also any updates on how folks with more than one game pack will be able to crew large ships with them. No, and no, we don't know.
Yeah.
We know that they have talked about people with extra game packs being able to use them as NPCs or customizable NPCs, but that's no different from you being able to employ NPCs otherwise. That's the main big difference with game packs.
The general information Algared is once they say something, if it hasn't changed, then that's the status quo until they update it. And a lot of people go, oh, well, they haven't said that in 5 years, so therefore it must be out of date now. No, because we've had... the last big one was Death of a Spaceman. They didn't update that until last year. And that before that, it was 2012, 2013.
Yep.
And that had basically not even changed. So, you know, it's the same thing. Just unless it changes, it's the status quo.
And the real change with Death of a Spaceman was really... how do we do the respawn? It wasn't really, you know, because with Death of a Spaceman, it was, you die X number of times and then you have to have a new character. And that's still there. Yep. It's just, how do we do this? You respawn but in the interim. And, you know, if your body, you're atomized by an explosion, how do we get you back? How do our med beds work? So,
Jake Fields in chat just said, I'm happy with both my Kraken and Idris. Java's too much shit for me. So yeah, you can send your Javelin to me. That'll be fine, Jake. I'll take it for free. I'll burden myself with your Javelin. You can send it to me.
You know,
it's all good.
I've got a nice little mothball fleet that you can you know, have it mothball with the storage containers if you like.
Algared, I'll never forget about the time that you lost your Javelin. You like you left it under your bed, and he's like, I forgot I had a third Javelin. Like, what the?
Yeah.
Anyway,
it was it's true. I did say, I found a Javelin I forgot I had. It is true. And he has never let me forget.
No, I won't. I brought it up I bring it up like every 6 months easily.
Come on. Every 6 months? You sure it's only 6 months? You sure?
I'm not too sure, but every time Javelin's mentioned, that comes up, I'm pretty sure. So yeah. Mongo Mo asks questions regarding big ships. Has there been any update to NPC? Oh no, that was we just did that one. Sorry.
Uriel.
Yeah, it says, do you think a capital ship will be enjoyable for a single player? No. But the thing that we've always been trying to get across to you guys is it's about the expenditure. We're trying to get you the most amount of ships for a little amount of money, right? And any big ship that you have, you can pretty much earn anything underneath it very, very quickly, or even beside it, right? So if you only have a prospector, you can get all the ships under a prospector pretty easily, and the ones beside it. But then as soon as you want to get, like, say, a Retaliator, it becomes much harder. But then if you have the Retaliator, you can get everything under it. So it's not a hard process, you know, even though you can only go, like, say you had a Kraken, right? And you want to go out and do a cargo run in a Kraken on the first day the game releases, you could technically do that solo, and it's probably a bit silly to do so. But the money you make would be so much more vast than if you just went, say, out in a Hull A, because you have so much more cargo that you'll make that money up as long as you stay in a safe area. So you can essentially use that one ball to snowball a lot easier. But obviously, if you then did one cargo run and had the money, you could get NPCs to help you, and then you could probably go to a combat mission, and it just snowballs.
To even take that a little further, if you've got a large cargo ship and you don't have the money to fill it, but you need crew, you get someone else to say, hey, look, help us fill up this cargo ship. We'll split the profits basically and help us crew it. And so you could actually, fill up those larger ships even if you don't have a credit, by you having other people work with you to do that. So
essentially that solo crewing is a worst case scenario, but it's still viable, is what we're trying to say. Yeah. And we probably should preface that with the fact that it is the worst case scenario.
And when you're looking at those large ships, and we always, we do often push, go big, go big or go home or whatever it is.
Well, we say consolidate is what we really say, don't we?
We're really saying consolidate. And I've started to say, don't just go big, go the biggest ship. When you're looking at that biggest ship and earn down, go the biggest ship you feel you'll be comfortably able to run with yourself or yourself and friends. And because, as Execute said, it's easier to earn those ships down and beside rather than an up.
And we do often like go through because people have these huge ass fleets that we deal with sometimes, and so we'll give them multiple ships in multiple different professions. But the other part of it is too that is essentially you don't have to stick to one profession. So if you have like a really big ship like the Reclaimer that's a salvage ship, there's no reason you can't use that to earn another capital ship, sorry, a cargo ship as an example. You don't have to stay in your lane, so to speak. But we just do that because a lot of the people we deal with have so much money they've spent. Like, I remember, do you remember that guy? We didn't even end up doing a show with him, but do you remember he'd spent like $5,000? He was literally telling us that he wanted to get to 15. And I was just like, what? Why do you want to put more money in? But yeah, I just remember that guy now. Like there are people that just like, they have these goals. Like, I want to get to this level so I get a free, what was it? It was after the lightning or whatever. And I was just like, why are you spending 15 grand just to get a skin when the game comes out, you could just buy it in game, or you could have a ship. And we even explained to him, didn't we? We said you could do one mission and just buy it. You know, like you don't need to spend 15 grand. It was,
and you know, and for some ships that yes, there'll be the reputation walls and all the rest of the stuff, and I can understand people doing it. But if you're doing it just for the sake of getting the ships, I think that's insane. If you're buying, if you're spending the money to back the development of the game, that's different from just buying it to get the ships. And then it's just a matter of, okay, you've backed the game. How do you then get the best bang for your buck? And that's the question that I think is a lot of people struggle with. Certainly people who've backed the game quite heavily. They're now looking at, well, how do I get the best value for my money based on what I've got and what I want to do? And because I'm pretty certain a lot of people early on, when they were just backing the game, they just bought. They weren't really concerned about what it did. They were just, yeah, I'll get that to support the game. I'll get that to support the game. I'll get that to support the game. A bit like.
I think it depends on who you are, because people that obviously don't have money, they just wanted one good ship to play the game with. And then there are people like yourselves, like I know the reason why you put in so much is you wanted the game to succeed, but it depends on how much money you earn. That's a budget thing. Because if you're asking a guy that, you know, he can only afford a basic starter, he did want to support the game, but he, you know, I think you got to take a bit of personal.
And then for him, it's what's the best starter to get, and that's always a question.
Just saying, you need to take personal situation into account. That's the only thing else I'd add to what you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Loud Guns asks, on the stability question, isn't it more about whether the Q stabilizes as or when on the expanse? Give your time. Wait, sorry, hang on. I'm having trouble with English here. Hang on.
On the stability question regarding quantum fuel or quantanium, is it more about the quantum stabilizers of fuel when on the expanse, given the time to refine it? And I think it's
a volatile ore. Yeah. If you turn it into a gas, it's no longer the volatile ore.
And when it does stabilize, when you take it to a station, it stabilizes the second you get to a terminal and store your ship.
Yeah.
So,
could it be as simple as soon as you put it in you take it off the ship, it just becomes, no, it won't be that. It'll literally be, can you imagine, actually, Algared, I just sort of thought as a gameplay term. Can you imagine someone as a prospector deliberately dropping off a saddlebag full of quantanium next to a ship to blow it up?
Or someone not liking the expanse owner and dropping off a bag of quantanium that is so close to blowing up. But, you know, here.
There's some gameplay there. There's some gameplay there. I can see that. Yeah.
Maggot gameplay there.
Yeah.
Groofer gameplay there, that is.
Pioneer Terrorists.
Pioneer Terrorists, that's right. Evil, yes. SA says yes.
Yes. He's already thought about it. That tells you everything you need to know about SA.
Yes.
He's one of them.
He rubs his hands.
For one of the people that don't know, he's one of the military people. So yeah.
Jeremy Tux says, let's see, didn't they CIG mention refining salvage scanning as being dependent on server meshing? Can we find spoiler about server meshing progress in the game mechanics?
February this year is literally where server meshing was like on the roadmap to finish, right? So obviously however long to its release is all polished from here on in. So yeah, I think you can. What you just said there has merit too. Yeah, 100%. Not that I remember saying that they were inherently linked to server meshing. I don't remember that. But anything you want to add to that, Algared, or not? Move on.
No, I think that's probably a fair cop. But they seem to they always seem to be working towards the goal, and as they can add more things in, they do them. And if you need,
sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, so
Death Factor.
Moving on.
Death Factor asks, will CIG allow us to buy arcade machines in game with the backer money down the line when we get around to actually making them playable? Yeah, I can see them as Hanger Flare. Don't know about you, Algared. You know, like what was it? Vanguard, Hyper Vanguard Force as a.
I would love us to be able to have those video games to be able to use them as the bit that got me of the backer money. Are you meaning like in the store, like as in Hanger Flare, or?
I think he just means. I think he just means our UEC. He might not be a national, an English first language person. So yeah.
But I would love to see those arcade games that we see in the stations being able to be purchased and put in our hangars or put on our ships. I think from memory, the 890 Jump actually has a video game in its pool room for the crew rather than the
So he said in chat, like the jukebox. So yeah, it's just Hanger Flare, 100%. Could you see Hanger Flare on a ship one day? Absolutely as well. Can you imagine rocking around in the MSR and there's an arcade machine in the back? Absolutely. Because again, it's that dual gameplay. If you can have something to do on the ship, why not? You see it all the time where they build one thing for one thing and it's also used somewhere else. So that's less work. So if they can build, they're not going to build 100 arcade machines. They're going to build one with a different texture and just play the difference. You understand that, right? So it's literally just different games that play on the same machine.
But if you remember back to games like Wing Commander, Chris always had the practice hub, and you'll remember way back in the early hangar module, we had that practice hub, which is how we got into Arena Commander, because Arena Commander is actually the in-game. It's an in-game game.
I would totally expect to see things like Arena Commander in Squadron 42 or an arcade machine, Hyper Vanguard Force. I would like it, at some kind of recreation area like you're suggesting. I think that's a totally distinct possibility in Squadron 42.
That was part of the idea of what Chris wanted, because because combat is so deadly, because death of a spaceman really matters. How do you get better at combat? You've got to go into your game terminals and your virtual reality machine to do that. Pool tables, I want them to be working. I want the video games to be there. I want to be able to shoot baskets in the hoop, in the javelin, or the 890.
You just want to put on your hot, sexy yoga pants and run around Microtech. Don't lie to me, Algared. I know what you want. I know what you want to do.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Those things that chew up time, because travel is going to take time, and so what's your crew do? If the pilot's flying the ship, what's everyone else doing? If you've done your repairs and you've done you've eaten and you're washed and you've done all the other stuff you need to do, what are you going to do to pass the time away if it's a long jump?
Yeah.
Play pool, play poker, play whatever. So
yeah, I actually totally agree with that. I think they will have a whole myriad of things that you can do, and not just like stuck to one ship either. I think they'll want you to change them over as time goes on. So let's look at MSR and the chess set. Like, there's no reason you can't change that over something else down the line, and maybe it's an arcade machine, so you get bored again. That gives an economy, because you can actually buy new things. Do you know they could even roll that out to the point that people could build different games for you to play?
Yep. Well, they do have gammon boards in the 890, I believe. So it'd be nice to see those be able to playable, as well as and checkerboard. Checkers, backgammon, chess, plus your video games, plus pool, plus basketball. That's at least a dozen, and that's besides doing the things you need to do on your ship, like repair, home, move cargo, shower, wash, eat, etc. So
So
moving on.
Sangropa asks question: what is your emotional support ship? Well, besides the support ship of is the Kraken a support ship? I was going to say the Apollo is a support ship, but no. What's your support ship? Emotional support ship, Algared?
Yeah, I think you asked that last week as well, Sangropa.
Did he?
And my go-to ship at the moment. What is my go-to ship at the moment? I don't think I really have one. I just pick out whichever one I want to fly in the day. So
I think you're like me, Algared. When we tend to go, because we hook up every now and again to fly stuff, we always try and fly things that are unique. You know, like, and that's why we fly that Caterpillar. That's why we fly the Starfarer. We like, even when we were you and I were flying on the Whole A the other day, we pick up on things that just other people don't pick up on because we're looking for those weird things and trying to make sense of them. I think I think Algared and I are a bit different than most people because we like to find those different experiences. We don't ever really kind of stay to one ship. We kind of explore. I think that's a bit of like exploring the ships, if you guys get what we're trying to say. So we like one day we'll go out and fly one thing, and then the next day we'll do another.
Yeah, I think the last ship I was flying was just for the fun of it was a Kato Owl. That's probably my while I like the Connie, I really do like the Connies, but my go-to support ship is probably the Kato Owl because it's named after me. That's my line.
I was really enjoying the Redeemer until they've just nerfed the shit out of it to make the turret slower. But before that, I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. I still like it. Like, it's really cool to, you know, like if there's something combat you're doing, like, it's hard to pass that ship up because those turrets just hit like trucks. And even the pilot still has some really good guns as well. But obviously they've nerfed it a little bit. But I enjoyed the Hurricane as well. Like, I think the first ship I buy when I go in game and I've earned a bit of money is that Hurricane, because there's just, even when you and I have done it, Algared, like, there's just something fun about that teamwork, about like Algared to go, he's over there, and I'll, you know, we've got to work together.
The Hurricane really does work for that two-player teamwork better than most ships, I think, and it is because it's not as tough. It can't absorb as many hits as the bigger ships. So you've got it. You know, your pilot is conscious of that, and because pilot's guns aren't as tough as turret guns, you've really got to position your turret gunner to take the shots. And so there is that element of you've actually got to work as a team. And I get the idea. That seemed to be the idea that they had between with a defender as well. And
doesn't quite work the same though, does it, mate? We've never been able to quite understand the logic on that, because like I think originally it was meant to be some kind of sniper ship where the pilot's kind of like driving at what it's shooting, and then that guy's gonna like zoom in somehow with a camera and shoot it. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. But I'm just thinking that gameplay's not there yet. There's just something they haven't added that we can't see.
I would hazard a guess, because it does have the Tavaran shield technology.
But the really long body of it, that's why I think it's sniper-based, because it's really long. It originally had those tachyon cannon things.
Tachyon cannons, and they were long-range, big, blasty things, and they did more damage, you know. So, but given that the shielding is Tavaran tech, and the phalanx shield was originally one that you shifted around, you know, they shift around literally as almost a physical block. Whether the idea was that ship was more not a turret being the player thing, but the second person being really on the shield management. And if you have someone doing that really well, then that means that that movable shield is going to be super tough and not be breached as often. So, but that's speculation on my part. But certainly the Hurricane is a fun ship to fly when you're with a person, but absolute woeful if you're by yourself.
I do relate that back to the Scorpius as well, because with the way that turret's working and stuff, I'm not sold on that whole turret thing. But if it's somewhere between the like what we've heard is it's somewhere between the Vanguard and the Hurricane, so it's like a more tanky Hurricane, losing a bit of that turret functionality. And then also, how is it going to fly? There's a few little questions there, but it could be a happy medium. It really could. We'll have to wait and see. What's
so I hope we finally answered that question for you, Sangropa. Go Mitch yourself says, when do you think this ship will release? this year.
Yeah, so I think we said that a couple of weeks ago. I'm treating it a little bit like the Tavaran. What was it? Tavaran Shrike and oh god, the Shrike. What the hell was the original one?
The Shrike and the Talon.
Oh, it's just the Talon Shrike. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that was around about this time when that was announced, and then it came out at the end of the year. And if you look at a lot of the models, the ship kind of looks like it's done. It's just that the gameplay's not there, and you need a cargo refactor. You need the obviously, they've got to make the refining mini game and then tractor beams. That's all on the roadmap for this year, other than the refinery stuff. But I also look at the terminals and go, how much extra? So it's the gameplay. Whatever that gameplay is that needs to be done there, it isn't done yet. So could it be the end of this year? Yep. Could it be as simple as that it's just a copy of what's at the stations? Yep, initially. And then could they dial it into something more detailed? Yep. Is it possible at the end of the year? 100%. But will they?
Yeah, who knows? And I think I'm a bit like you. It's one of those ships. They certainly seem to have those smaller ships seem to come out quicker, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have got it ready to go. But it's that gameplay aspect that's not there or not dialed in the way they want. And so, rather than put in a ship that can't do anything, because if it can't transfer cargo from a prospector yet, if it can't refine the stuff, what can it do? Because it appears to have no regular cargo. So I
don't want to jinx it, but my camera hasn't frozen in 5 minutes, so I'm thinking unplugging it and plugging it back in made all the world of difference. Maybe it was a bit of static up discharge, but
maybe it was static up build or loose cable.
So some dickhead asks, will there be disadvantages to ships who use alien tech even if it adds functionality? For example, will it be harder to get parts for the Zion tractor beam or a Banu Metroman turret? Yeah, I reckon it would be, because you'd have to go to select like distributors or manufacturers, just like in real life.
I always think back to my brother when when one of his first cars was an Audi. Loved his Audi. His Audi Fox, I think it was. But he ended up ditching it and getting rid of it because as it started to get, because it was an older car, getting the parts for it always cost him an arm and a leg because they came from Germany.
And I think of things like, because my parents were really into what do they call them, BMWs. They're really into BMWs, and the parts to get them repaired were just insane, and so basically they just weren't worth it. The cars were great, but they hardly ever broke. But when they did broke, it was so expensive.
It really cost you because the parts were coming from Europe, whereas Toyotas and Mitsubishis.
I jinxed it. Anyway,
you did. Their parts a lot less distance. So the price was significantly cheaper. So I expect that the case. I wouldn't be surprised if the missed ships, because they're actually a UEE company as well, even though they're a mix of UEE and Xeon Tech, they'll be easy to get stuff for. But
you know what I'd actually say about that, Algared?
Or a BMM, that would be harder.
What I'd say about that, Algared, is that I'd have to have things coming from Zion Space to build them. So it would probably be easier to interrupt the supply chain. Yep.
But certainly ships like any ships from IOPA, any ships from the Banu, any ships from Vandal, there'll be ships that will be more difficult. And even though Asperia build the Vandal ships, because they use often Vandal parts for bits and pieces as well, you've got to actually salvage those parts to be able to use them. So yeah, I expect they'll be more expensive.
No, I don't disagree.
Loud guns. Are we assuming that quantum refines into fuel? Only currently it refines from ore to a refined metal. Personally, I don't think the Expanse will do fuel for balanced reasons. Possible, but don't know.
They've literally said that you can take raw ore contanium, put it into the Starfarer, and refine it into fuel. That was by Dan Truffin. He's also said you can take anything in, meaning a liquid, gas, or a solid, and it can come out the other end, depending on the material, it can come out the end as a solid, liquid, or gas. So you need, for the refineries need to do both. But the only example they've ever given is quantanium goes in as a solid and it comes out as a liquid.
And the question with that is, do I have to add anything for that? Do I have to add hydrogen to mix it into a fuel, or are there two steps? So, and I don't think they've answered that question yet. We do know that you can go quantum to fuel,
but we have, because we've that point of view refinery stuff. I guarantee you we'll answer that when that episode comes out. So yeah,
I would hazard a guess that, you know, are there different steps? Do you take the raw quantanium? Do you stabilize it into a stable ore, then add something else to get that? Do they have those steps? Eventually, I expect them to be there, but will they have it initially? Who knows?
And there's no reason right now. Let's be honest. There's no reason right now you can't have quantanium that starts as quantanium and it immediately ends as liquid, and they can't add other steps. At a later date, you know. So yeah, anything is possible in that regard.
Look what happened with mining. Mining has certainly changed over time. So,
and we've only got half the mining right now. Liquid and gas is all about to come. Loud guns.
And we still don't even have the gadgets yet.
Well, they're in the P2, but yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah. Question by Loud Guns. Are we assuming that quant refines into a fuel? Oh, no, you read that already. Yeah, yes, we answered that. Megan Shears, sorry, yeah. I just joined in, but question, do you think there will be a mole-sized, mid-sized version of the Toronto? It's funny you mentioned that. Yes, we do. That's exactly what are the ships that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And you tend to find that they go small, medium, large, capital, and so they usually bring out the small ship first, then it's usually the larger capital ship, and then the medium ship, which is the sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone, is usually the one they bring out last, because that'll be the most popular ship.
Actually, traditionally they've gone large, small, then capital, small, and then medium or large, because the medium and large ones are usually the best ones because they scale up and down. But yeah. We have seen. Sorry.
Certainly with a refining ship, we don't have the medium or large or the capital yet. So
one thing
unless you consider the Orion as a capital refiner.
Yeah, and I do consider that a capital refiner. I think refining splits, and we'll get into that episode when either the point of view.
So stay tuned for that. I'm actually not in that episode. I don't know the point.
You were not invited.
There you go. He didn't want me there. He hates me. But that also does mean if I'm mentioning things that are in there, that's part of the reason why. Because we often do talk about issues, but not necessarily mean I'm actually when they're doing the show. So I might talk about things in the show. But, yeah. Anyway, moving on.
P-Brick asks, what do you think could be the special event at Fleet Week? Well, from what I've heard from some friends, is there's a first-person shooter event on the barges that fly around, because we know it's going to be at Horizons, so an event at Horizon makes a lot of sense, and from what I've heard, there's the stuff in the files. So you can do some kind of first-person shooter competition of some description. That's what I've heard. So yeah.
Yep.
Can we go on the next one?
Next one is, do you think they will be able to buy a Bengal one day? I believe they always said no.
I'll let you answer this, and I'm going to go fill up my drink. I'll be right back.
So early on, the impression was no, we wouldn't be able to buy a Bengal, and if we could, it'd cost way more than we'd ever be able to afford, because Chris talked about the cost of buying say an Idris, like 10 to 1 in terms of what it is now. So it's just absolutely insane price value. So I just read the next question. Will there be Bengals in game which we could run and fly and control? Yes. Would there be Bengals we could actually find and repair? Yes. Would we need to return them back to UEE? Probably expected to. And if we tried to hold on to it, then it'd be an area to fight over. So there's a lot of speculation into what that will be, but the idea was certainly we wouldn't be able to buy them and own them, but we'd certainly be able to find and fly them. So I think that's the answer to that one. Sandgroper, if you line up all my ships from end to end, do they circle the moon yet? I don't know. but probably close. Maybe a very small moon, a Death Star, maybe, you know, because it's only a little rock, or maybe Pluto. But yeah, maybe not the. Yeah, who knows? And I'll go into Jake's question while Execute's still here. In your opinions, do you feel we will see the Nautilus or Perseus this year? Perseus is probably a better guess than a Nautilus because it doesn't need moving parts outside the ship. But if they get drones working, which means mines can be placed, then I don't see why you couldn't. It all depends on where CIG decide to go in terms of what they're adding or not adding. And yes, your camera's gone off.
Yeah, I'm getting so annoyed with it. Man, I'm gonna have to start a a GoFundMe for a new camera. This is terrible.
Go fund me to fix my camera issues.
Yeah, fix my camera. New show coming next week. Fix my camera. There we go.
So I've answered the Bruce's question.
The Bengal one.
I said, yep, and I've answered Groper's question. And Jake Fields has a question that says, "Do you feel we'll see the Nautilus or Perseus this year?" My thought is Perseus before a Nautilus because it has less moving parts. But
Perseus before Nautilus.
I have no idea.
Wait, Perseus before Nautilus?
Yeah.
Wasn't Mines on the roadmap?
I'm only saying Perseus before Nautilus because it's got less moving parts. It's just a normal ship.
But Nautilus just
The Nautilus
got mines.
Yeah, it's the same as the Perseus, but it's also got mines, which means, and it's got the drones to pick up the mines and service the mines. So you might have a Perseus, you might have a Nautilus that can dump the mines out, but not necessarily be able to service or reclaim or do stuff with the mines. So
I think I need to put you.
It wouldn't be complete.
I need to put you in a room with Grim. I think he'll fight you over that. Nautilus is his favourite ship, so.
I'm not saying the Nautilus is a bad ship.
No. We get badges. We get badges and Grim in a room because Perseus versus
worth seeing.
Yeah.
We put them on a live stream and say, in the red corner we have badges for the Perseus, and in the blue corner we've got Grim, and let them go hammer and tongs and see who comes out, gives the best argument to you. But my only reason, if I was saying, do I think this year? It depends on what COG have got up their sleeves. I would, given their size, I don't care.
Just so you know, I think
they don't.
I think they're just as complicated as each other because you've got a custom ammo type in the Perseus and you've got manual loading on the Perseus. I think that's way more complicated than the mines because the mines are just, they float out the back of the ship.
But the Perseus, the Nautilus needs the drones to be able to gather, retrieve, disarm, and do other stuff. And so
then they're both just as complicated as other. And I think you'll see drones before you see the Perseus stuff, because when you get drones, you also get the Vulcan, and the Vulcan we've already got repair on the roadmap. So I'd actually put the Nautilus before Perseus.
Oh well, there you go then.
That's my. You're in charge of your opinion, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No. Both opinions could be valid. I can see Execute's point as well. So.
This year though, I don't think we'll see either of them. No.
Gazlol, mining and salvaging mechanics being very similar, what professions do we know that use similar mechanics, and which one do we think will be next? Data running? Mining and salvaging.
Like two questions. Mining and salvaging mechanics seem to be very similar. What professions do you know? I think they're very different, actually.
Yeah, mining and salvaging aren't the same. Salvaging and repair are very similar.
So salvaging...
They're flip sides of the same coin.
Yeah, salvaging is like cutting and blowing things up and cutting into pieces and then like grinding it down, where mining is you're using lasers and cutting up and then extracting things in. There is a difference there, right?
I always got the impression that mining and refining were the two were the two that went together. Salvage and repair went together.
Agreed.
Then I'm not sure where you go. Medical and goes together, and farming and together. I'm not sure where they go. But
I would say medical and science, probably.
Yeah.
But no,
which then ties in things like
there's connections between everything. That's what I was trying to say before. Like we've been talking with the professionals, and like that refining episode, I've got one of the guys from mining, and then I've got one of the guys from manufacturing, which was the one that we did on logistics and stuff like that. Now you wouldn't think they were the two that we would get, but the guy that does manufacturing, he works in plastics. So he knows everything. He knows all this stuff about how the like crude oil is refined and stuff like that. And he
I was there when he was talking about it, and it's a minute detail. And I can remember talking to a Canadian Mountie who was doing a doctorate thesis on oil and fingerprinting oil and fingerprinting petrol. And it was amazing how much they could, just because of the way oil breaks down, he could say, "Oh yes, this petrol in this jerry can came from this service station and was purchased between this date," just because of they knew the fuels that were in the history, and they could actually so it's quite bizarre and exactly how close they can actually fingerprint petrol and accelerants.
The other thing that was interesting too is just like how almost nothing is wasted in the process. It's all split up and turned it. So like plastic is this 8%. And then all this other stuff, like, so as they do the refinement process, it breaks off into different things that are turned into a whole, I think it was like 8 different things it was turned into. And they were then processed into other things and again and again and again. Crazy. I didn't know it was that way until I started learning. And that's where you can start seeing other ships that are popping up and stuff like that. Because as soon as you could have contanium, but it's broken. Like fuel might just be 10% of it. What's the other 90% that can be turned into?
So BS has a question, and their question is: will the Kraken have refineries, or will you need a refinery ship like the Expanse? And the second question to that is: will the Kraken be able to refuel itself in this way? It doesn't have refineries. Yes, if you've got ore and stuff, you'll need a refinery ship. Can it refuel itself in this way? I think you'd need a refuel ship to transfer the fuel into the fuel tanks, but that's guessing on my part.
I agree on everything you said, though. Howard, I'll put it this way: do you think you could just have fuel in a cargo container and you could take that and put it into your ship?
I would love to think you could do manual jerry can refueling. But it would take time.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what they indicated on the Liberator is the case of how you refuel. But I would hope if you've got fuel in a cargo container, you could actually go and manually jerry can that into any fuel container you've got. But the question would: could I go to my fuel tank and get the old cord and siphon it into a jerry can and then take it to another ship?
Man, I hope that's a thing. I so hope that's a thing.
And I would hope that's a thing. And I remember back to when they talked about when the Vulcan first came out, and they had the drones, the refueling drones, and people were asking, can we go up to someone's ship and steal their fuel with our drones? And the answer was kind of wasn't what we were thinking, but they couldn't really see a reason why you couldn't. And that ties in with the salvage in terms of before you munch up a ship in your reclaimer, you needed to take the fuel off it, and you needed to take the ammo off it. If you've got to take the fuel off it, how are you going to do that? You need drones to do that. So that reverse gameplay of refueling comes in with that salvage as well. So yeah.
But if you can take it out with a drone, there's got to be a manual way to do it as well.
Yep. So that.
Oh, I think I might have lost Algared. Oh. Yep, I lost Algared. He'll be back. All right, we'll go on without him. I'm not going to remember.
You have. I've frozen.
Oh, no, you're back.
It's happened in ages.
You're back.
No.
Yeah, it's happening to all of us today. What question are we up to? Johnny Mendoza.
We're up to Johnny Mendoza.
Have you played Shenmue? If you have, they had a mini game inside the game, such as arcade machines where you could play games out arranged from CF. No, they did. 100%. And it'll just be like that. I can think of so many games that have. So some company makes a game, and they might have had the Atari 2600 game in that game. That's essentially what we're talking about, like with Hyper Vanguard Force. They might even ask for requests from the community, like people that have their old Flash games that they've made and stuff like that, that they could then put into the game.
Oh, come on. If they don't have the game that came with the Apollo and I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically Chris Roberts' first game, remodified. So it was basically the Con game.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
The Vandal on the tower with the little Apollo flying and shooting it.
I think they'll make a whole bunch of stuff like Vandal Slayer 6, and they'll go in lore and make a whole bunch.
If that game isn't in there, because that Chris Roberts' very first game when he was a teen, if that's not in the game, then yeah. But I expect them to be there. I expect Vandal Force to be one of the games. In fact, since we've already got the game boxes for Vandal Force, I would expect to see it.
Yeah. It's Hyper Vanguard Force. I just made up Vandal Slayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sangreppa asks, I deleted the question. Remembered I asked it last week. Yeah, that's fine. The bot grabbed it before. The bot grabbed it before you deleted it.
That's right. We got it before you.
Zenith asks, with the 600i rework, will it be a decent multi-role ship? Exploration, medical bed, a bit of cargo, vehicle. Currently have the MSR and Terrapin. Not sure I want to go larger than 600i. I'll let you go this and then I'll go.
Well, 600i is a great. It's a large ship, but it's a good solo ship in terms of having good guns for a pilot to use at the moment. My understanding is they're not changing the weapons. They're not changing the weapon layout. They're not changing the exterior layout. They're not really changing the front part of the ship in terms of the captain's quarter. I think they might be moving the bathroom or something like very minor. It's that really the back end of a ship. With a med bed in there, I think it'll just increase the value of that ship, and the interior will just add to the versatility of that ship. So I can't see why it wouldn't be. So yeah. Your thoughts?
I don't like Origin ships. They don't offer enough. But that said, of the Origin ships as they do, this is one has piqued my interest the most. But then again, you're talking what is it, $480 from memory?
I honestly can't remember.
Someone in chat, chugging in chat, but I'm pretty sure it's like you're talking almost $100 more to get to a Carrack. Get the damn Carrack. You're going that far. Why not go the whole hog? You get a rover with it, and you get a Pisces. That's $90 right there. That means the Carrack is technically only $475. There you go. Look, 25 and another 10. That's $35 difference essentially between the two ships. You gotta factor in that ship and that rover, right? You factor that in,
and the only big difference between those two ships is the fact that the 600i has the pilot controlled guns, whereas the Carrack doesn't have pilot controlled guns. But
everything else,
what the Carrack has at the moment, the Carrack is as good or better. So, and I think you do have to think of that in terms of what's in the ship. The exploration version of the 600i has the G12 rover.
That's true. Okay, I forgot about that.
Whereas the Carrack does have the Ursa rover and the Pisces C8 or the C8X if you've upgraded. But if you're looking at an even cheaper exploration ship, you've got the Aquila, which has the Ursa rover and a P-52, which you've got to factor into the cost value of that ship as well. I think it doesn't have a med bay.
I think you get superior scanners though in the Carrack over that as well. You got the repair bay in the Carrack.
Over the 600,
you've got a same bed, medical bed, but you've also got the two accessory beds. I think they're tier 3, so it's actually got two tier 3s and a tier 2.
You've lost sound there, Execute.
I lost sound. What do you mean I lost sound?
No, you're back. Yeah, you just went dead for a bit there.
Must have been just your end, mate. Okay.
Yeah,
I just think it's not $100 more. So let's say we take the rover off I think for the extra money, you just get so much more ship with the Carrack than you get with the But you can go the other way, like you were saying too. You can go lower as well.
But the disadvantage of going lower is that the current level Connie doesn't have a med bed, and
I'd have someone argue with you too that the Corsair's in there as well, but I just don't see that Corsair going the long range. I don't know if you do, but
and well, if you're looking at it in terms of the value of a ship, yes, the Corsair is in there, but it doesn't have a vehicle. It doesn't have a snub ship included. Yes, you could put a vehicle in the Corsair, but when you're looking at a Connie Aquila, it comes with an Ursa Rover. You don't need to buy an Ursa Rover to put in. It comes with an Ursa Rover. It comes with a P52. You don't have to buy a P52 for it as well. For 600i, it comes with a G12. You don't have to buy one to put it in. And it's the same with the.
But you can also add and subtract that from the cost to get it more.
Yeah.
So I think what you're trying to say is essentially, what's the Aquila like? 275 at the moment.
310, I think.
310. So let's take $50 off.
260.
260.
50,
So it's
75.
So it's 215 versus 260 at the moment. But the Aquila's in game. The Corsair is not. So the Corsair is going to jump. Will it jump? So the MSR was 225. It went up to 260. That's like 35. So if we add 35 to that, so that makes it 220, and then that jumps to 250. So you got 250. It's a $10 difference essentially between the Aquila and the
And of course, there.
So you take the Aquila.
Yeah, because you've got that. You've got the Ursa and the P52, and you've got the. Yes, you don't have as many turret guns, but you've got that turret with the scanners. So. You get more scanning ability, so I think it gives you, at least looking on paper at the moment, it gives you more gameplay. Yeah, you go look at the top end of the Carrack and the Carrack, and you can even do the same with the Odyssey. Look at the Odyssey versus the and that's MISC, not Origin. But you look at the Odyssey compared to the Carrack and what it's got at the moment, and you've got to do the same thing. The Odyssey doesn't have a ship in its cargo bay. It doesn't have a vehicle in its garage. So,
real quick question while you're talking: could someone post me the price in Alpha UEC of the 600i Explorer? Please continue, Algared. If someone can post that for me in chat, I'd be really appreciative.
Yeah. So if you look at the Odyssey versus the Carrack, you're doing the same thing. You're looking at what things the Carrack has versus the Odyssey, or what the things and you've got to factor in the cost of the Ursa and the Pisces against and almost subtract that off the price when you're kind of just comparing those two ships. And that's what, $50, and is it $35 or $50 for the C8X as well?
Sorry, say again.
What's the price of a C8? The C8? Standard C8? 35?
I think it's 55, but you can't buy it anymore. And in a game package, it's 60. So I think that makes it a standard $45. But I will look it up right now.
And you can't buy the C8 standard by itself anyway. So, but as a ship price, you'd probably be looking at around. You're probably looking at around $45. So it's probably the same price as an LN.
45. Yeah, $45 for the Anvil Pisces.
So that's a C8X 45. A C8 is probably the same as an Aurora MR. So that's a $35 or $40 ship. So that's $85 in ship and vehicle. Take that off the $650 price of a Carrack or whatever a Carrack is, and compare it to an Odyssey and go, does the Odyssey have that much extra ship?
All right, so just to give you an idea, right? So this is another, like, because obviously you've got like what they're pricing the ships at, and then you've got also like what the designers are pricing the ships at, right? Now, currently in game, I just googled it because no one did. I think someone did answer it, and I thought they were full of shit, but they are correct. It's roughly 9.5 million or 9.45 million, right, for an Explorer. Take that into account, and now when I put this in your head, it's 26 million for a Carrack. That's more than double. That's 2.5 times, but it's only $100 more. So if the designers are doing that,
that tells you what they think of a Carrack versus an Odyssey.
It's so much more valuable. I do not do not value ships on what the marketing people should put ships at, because I can give you so many examples of where that is completely different to what the designers think. And I said last week we found another one, Hawk versus the Hurricane. Hawk costs $100, the Hurricane costs 195, but in game the Hawk costs more than the Hurricane.
Yeah.
Follow the designers, do not follow the marketing people, and you will get more accurate answers. It's that simple. So yeah, the 600i.
Having looked at that, I still prefer the. I got to say, with the Hurricane and the Hawk, I do prefer or like the gameplay of a Hurricane over the Hawk. But then the difference is, for the Hawk I can play it solo, whereas the Hurricane I must have a second player.
We don't have the bounty hunting. We don't have the all that stuff yet. So there's a lot of functionality in that ship. Yeah, we don't have. But there's another really good one. There's another really good one. A2 is going to be 5 million and 3.7. 5 million? Yeah. It's like an $800 ship. Look what the hell's going on there. That's half the price of the 600i. What is going on?
Yeah, that's insane. But when you're looking at those explorers, I think certainly the explorer ships, or even a lot of those bigger ships, you've got to look at the ships that come with it. Because they add so much more gameplay. Like we've said in the past, the C8, even the C8 is a good little starter ship. You don't need to buy, if you've got a carrier, you've got a starter ship which can do 4 your SE of cargo. You've got a rover. You've got a multi-person ship.
I would argue if you could still buy the original prices at $45, I would argue that's the best starter in the game, because those three at $45, the Mustang, the Aurora, and it, I would take it every day of the week. 3 people, the same amount of cargo. The only thing you don't have is the bed.
I think the C8X as a package was more than a
60,
an Aurora, and because you got the game pack.
But you could only get it in the expedition skin. So that's also why it costs more. So it was I don't know what you equate that to. So let's say $5.
The C8 was never made available. It's only available just the regular C8 is only available with the Carrack.
Yep.
And that's equivalent when you look at it. When you look at the weapons loader, it's basically equivalent to what the MR comes as. It's got two lasers. It's got two missiles, or 4 missiles, but basically it's basically the MR, whereas the C8X is basically your LN.
Well, me and Sia did a video ages ago, like talking about this. We've been talking about this for years and years and years, but the one we did was Buyer's Remorse, and I've actually reached out to Sia a couple of times, but he's always busy, and said we need to do another one, because since that video, there's now actual proof, several weird things in game that you can point out, and when the really loud one that came out was the Prowler versus the Hoplite, and we brought that out, and the concept kind of went viral, and people were like, what the hell's going on? And they changed the in-game price. I do not want that to happen. You should be not rebalancing shit in-game to match out-of-world prices. That means the marketing people are determining. You don't want that. You want the designers determining things, not the marketing people. Fuck that right off for a joke. I'm gonna be frank. That's really terrible. I hate it. And any game that you've played, I'm sure there's people here that knows what I'm talking about. Any game you've played where the marketing people start making decisions of how the game should play, it all goes to shit very quickly.
Oh, weren't there games that had kind of these loot boxy type things you pay cash for, and were kind of lots of trouble. Marketing can be a blessing and a bane.
Wow, there's a crazy one that I didn't see earlier. ADS Farm says in game the Redeemer is 8.6 million, and then the 600i is, what was it say, 9.4. So it's like less than $1 million more. Yeah, but it's like half the price.
Yep, that's insane.
So just kind of shows you how so the luxury, alien tax, all these little things. Combat's another big one. Everything we say, it's based in stuff that we've seen. So like when we come out and say the Pegasus is a $350 ship, not a $675 ship, please believe us, because we're trying to save you money. We're not trying to be assholes. What point have we got of being assholes? We get nothing, right? If we're just warning you, don't buy a Pegasus if you don't want to waste your money. It's the same thing with Origin. Like, my whole thing with Origin is just they are clearly the sinkhole from a design perspective, right? You know, they're bling bling, they're to show off, you know, and think about all the other MMOs you think of, you know, Knights of the Old Republic, the mounts you drive around on and stuff like that. World of Warcraft, it was also mounts and, you know, weird things you get. Algared, I'm sure you could list a couple from the MMOs you've played, yeah? That you have these real weird things that you collect and they cost a bit to get. That's what Origin clearly is. Origin doesn't really have any, like, their main thing is touring. Touring is driving around doing nothing. Like, and yes, there are spin-offs to that, like exploring, and we've got weird outliers like the 325A and the 315P, but all I want them to do, like if they had a utility tractor beam on the 600i or a 400i to give it a little bit more to do, I could start to get behind that, right? But at the moment, they literally do nothing. Nothing. Yeah. And then I can go to a ship at the same price. Like a real good comparison right now is the Banner Merchantman and the 890 Jump. They're probably going to be roughly the same price, but the 890 Jump does the cargo in the shops. You got a little bit of cargo in the 8, but it's not very much. Like that ship is going to be taking more money than it'll ever gain, even if you're using it purely for money raising purposes. I'll pass off to you.
A lot of the Origin ships aren't really, as you said, they're not really made for that money making purposes. And you look at the,
I want them to be though.
The 300. I think the classic, for me, the classic is the 300 versus the Titan. They're when you break them down, they're very similar in terms of loadout and gameplay and price, but then you look at the aftermarket things you could do with the 300, and you could double the price of your 300 just by buying an interior clock or changing the deck or adding a coffee machine or things to their ship. But it didn't really change what you could do with the ship. It was still effectively an Avenger Titan, and it just...
That's why that ship's still good, because you're going to get the Stalker and the Titan for the same price, really, essentially.
Especially based on what they've said in terms of being add the cargo component type aspects. So, but certainly when you look at those explorer ships, and I think you can really see that differentiation in cost in terms of what you get. And I still find I'd like to think the Odyssey will be a great ship, but I compare the price of the Odyssey to the Carrack, and then consider the Carrack's extras like the C8 and the Rover.
So this, do you remember this Algared? This like I've turned it sideways, but do you remember this really old one? So this is this is really old now. This would be like what, 4 years old, I think, Algared.
This was the dollars to SC UEC cost.
And this was just after the Carrack came out and just after it went up in price, right? And so you can clearly see most of the shit that is not worth buying is the vehicles, right? And the worst one in game that was a vehicle was the Merlin. But some of the ships that look, the Hurricane was in a really bad spot. And you go up here, surprisingly, the 890 Jump is really high. So, you know, and the 600 Touring and the 600i. So, like, though I sit here and complain from $1 to Alpha UEC perspective, but a lot of these prices have changed now, by the way. I do want to point that out. But, like, the Carrack was, and the Reclaimer are massively
in terms of
out in front.
So for the dollars you spent, you're actually getting more value in terms of the value in terms of UEC. And the smaller ships, you'd pay a premium price for them to get them, but in terms of the UEC value, you'd earn them very quickly. But that chart certainly came way after Sell Your Fighters as the mantra of Inforunners, didn't it? Like
But it was just showing that more and more people were working out what we worked out, you know, before. But that's not what we do it. We're just trying to, like, there are like Lennox Leith that was in or Leaf Linux. I always get butcher his name. Sorry.
He's probably still around, but yep.
Yeah, but like him doing CCU guides, I have no problem with that. Even like, and he will tell you he probably learned it from. Well, actually, he did say he learned it from us, but that's not a problem because that means more people are hearing it. And it's getting out further and further, and we just want to help people. We just don't want people to get ripped off. You'll see in an interview. Actually, we didn't talk about it in the interview, but there's an interview coming that me and Algared did, and we talked with this person and said, "Do you know you can get a Carrack for $95?" And they were like, "What?" You know, and this is a. I better not say anything more, or we're going to give stuff away. So I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, there are people at CIG that just do not know that you can do this. To say that, to say the least.
The person also said, all you need is a starter ship. All you need is a $40 pack.
Yep. Oh man, that is a very unattractive place for my camera to stop. But anyway,
it is.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna have to do a GoFundMe for a new camera. I think this thing is getting cooked.
All right, so while you're dealing with that, let's go on. Go down. I'm just got to find where the questions are.
Do you want to pause for a little bit, and we'll go back and do the Gen 12 renderer? Because we were going to talk about this, and we didn't talk about it. So the really interesting thing is they said the stuff coming in 3.17, and they think they expect the entire thing to be in at worst case scenario by 3.20. And the really cool thing that I'm just giving you the highlights here is that they'll be able to turn off a lot of legacy code, which is going to be awesome because like a lot of those bugs will just disappear. You know, things like you know your CPU GPU combination. So people like that have got newer computers are going to get a bigger buff and stuff like that. But it also shows you like I hate to say this because it can be misconstrued, but it might also possibly start to give you a reason to upgrade your PC because it now supports Gen 12. You're going to get bigger gains essentially. But again, I wouldn't be jumping out today and buying one. I'd wait until it's all fully implemented and go, right, went and looked at my friend Fred's PC and it is running heaps better. So yeah. But getting Vulkan and Gen 12 is going to be huge.
And that's a behind the scenes type thing. So we don't really see new gameplay, but it certainly, as those things come in, it certainly will increase, as you said, you know, that the fact that your CPU will be, if I understand correctly, using the threads better, and and the fact that you'll be getting more frames, and it'll just make, I think, the game a lot more comfortable and a lot more enjoyable to play.
Yeah, it's well, you know, Crytek as an engine is well, it kind of tells you everything you need to know. Like, it never worked on Gen 12. Now, Gen 12 has been, I'm trying to think of games that, like, the first Gen 12 game I saw, and I'm going back, like, what, 8 years? You know, so, like, it's just never, and that's a guess, by the way, don't quote me on, like, hold me to the furnace on that one. But the point I'm trying to get at is, like, it just didn't update. I'm kind of wondering, are they going to give this to Amazon? Because it'll give a huge boost to all their games too, you see. So it's interesting. Even Crytek, I don't think Crytek supports Gen 12. So that the funny ironic thing, they're building Crysis 4, they'd probably be going through the same motions right here. But yeah, it's interesting because they're probably leading the pack from a Crytek development, a Crytek engine or CryEngine point at this point in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
whether people like it or not, we're still a derivative of Crytek or CryEngine.
Yeah. So the other benefits, like if you read in here, like I'll just go through because just these bullet points, right? These are probably some of the most important things. Eternally, all render proxies like ships, characters, planets already going through the Gen 12 pipeline. They didn't make it for 3.17, but they'll be ready for the next big patch, which will probably be CitizenCon. I've heard a lot of ships on the screen tend to have been heavy on the RT, so that means so ship meetups might be big benefits. So basically saying when there's more ships that there'll be less stuff used. we're about to turn on Gen 12 for cube maps, RTTS, as well as kill a lot of legacy code, as I said before. Stuff's left to be ported like the planning, atmospheric passes, GPU skinning, gas cloud rendering will all be started soon. So I think about like how cool some of the clouds look in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Those benefits are obviously because Microsoft made DirectX 12, may port over into the cloud tech that we get around Horizon and all the planets and stuff. So that's all good as well. Major work on the transparent geometry has been started. This is the last big milestone we have to finish here. So don't even get me started on transparency in some of Crytek's games. They're really, really bad. But yeah, that's all good news, right? And I am anything that like Vulkan, Gen 12, all those new rendering engines are only going to improve the performance of the game. And that's a good thing. I'm really ticked off with this camera. This camera is going downhill so fast, it's not funny. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I'm stressing. All right. You guys got any questions with Gen 12 there? Just shoot them our way. Algared, do you have any questions for me? Because I know it's not your actual cup of tea, but yeah, feel free.
No, I don't. I and you're right. It's not my cup of tea. I haven't really given much thought. I just look at it and go, yeah, look, it's going to improve my rendering time. It's going to, and that gets rid of bottlenecks in terms of, if you're getting rid of bottlenecks in rendering, which means you're improving your frame rates. So I just see those types of things as quality of life in terms of playing the game. So if you're getting 40 frames per second, you're likely to go 70, 60.
It's not even, and it's not even high-end cards either. Like if you've got like a 3050, even that will get gains because it's newer tech and stuff like that. So yeah,
so it's the cards that are new tech will really benefit.
That's it.
And so all the high-end older cards will get some benefit as well. So anything could use that. We'll see a benefit in it, and that's the huge thing with it. So.
Well, considering we've been running on DirectX 11 all this time, and I think it even has DirectX 10. I'd have to go back and have a look. I haven't had a look in a while, but yeah, it's going to be some huge gains. I did want Piggles to come in, but he went to bed.
And that will certainly those gains will certainly make it opens the door for being able to do more stuff. So if you're getting rid of a lot of the old legacy tech, as they're saying, that getting rid of that old stuff that's just hanging on, once you can turn it off, that's got to be a bonus. It's they're doing less to get the game running, so that means they can put more in. At least that's to my understanding. So
yeah.
So yeah.
All right, I think we'll go back to the questions.
All right, Paul Russo. He says, is the entire UI and interactions in general getting a complete rework? I have no idea.
Yes. It's been converted from Flash, which is if you go try to find Flash, they removed it from the internet essentially a couple of years back. So it has to all be converted over to whatever what they call it, building blocks or something. They build a new system.
That's right. I had been doing it, but had been doing everything to building blocks. So yes.
That's why, when we were complaining about how you go up to the terminals and the cameras don't work the same, that's why, because they haven't built it to work like the old one yet. Because it's an entirely new system. Looks similar, but completely new system.
Yeah, and so so yes, they are doing that. I had forgotten building blocks, so it was just so old, I just assumed it was the old system.
Yeah.
I know it's weird to think that. He says, I recently played No Man's Sky again, and the interaction with the UI was so nice. I felt both jealous and guilty. Look, No Man's Sky was always a nice game. I quite enjoyed it. Even when people were complaining about it because it didn't do what they promised, it was still a nice game.
Yeah. Just got to give it time, and SC will get there as well. It's just
the thing I really do like about No Man's Sky is the updates they've given and no digital download.
Yep.
Content. And that is massive.
Yeah.
It's a really good game now.
They've brought a lot of goodwill with that. I was watching Piggles. Actually, were you there? I think you were there with me, weren't you?
I think I saw part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we were watching Piggles play it, and I own it, but I've never played it. So maybe I'll have a look at it down the line.
I played a bit early on, but then I'm one of those people who find it difficult to play 3 or 4 games at a time. So I tend to focus on one game, and the game I like to try and focus on is Star Citizen.
So I'm just thinking of you typing. I'm just thinking of you typing. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, shut up. Old man syndrome. Be quiet.
Yeah. All right. What is the Algared rhythm? I like that. It's a good pun. What is the Algared rhythm? Like algorithm, but Algared rhythm.
Yeah, I get what he's doing. But yeah.
It's like an abacus. You and I use a calculator. Algared uses an abacus.
I use an abacus. Yeah, that's right.
Azkabar asked question: what do you think the UE cruiser will look like? Function, size, and weapons, and the like. Isn't the cruiser the Pegasus, or am I mistaken? Which one is it? Just tell me. Is it the
cruiser is a light carrier. We don't have a cruiser yet.
Ah, okay. So that's
the cruiser. The battle cruiser. I can't remember which one.
Is it between
the cruiser mentioned in the?
Is it between the Pegasus? Is it between the Pegasus and the Javelin? Like, where does it sit?
It's bigger than a Javelin. I don't know whether you'd say it's bigger than a Pegasus, because the Pegasus is a downgraded Bengal as opposed to
essentially, yeah.
You know, do you consider the Kraken a frigate?
Hang on, I had that image open. Are you sure it's a downloaded? Hang on, we can flick back over in a second when I find it. Wait, flicking back over. That looks. Oh no, yeah, you're right. It is a downloaded Bengal. 100%. 100%. That's a downloaded Bengal. Yeah.
So it's a light carrier. So, so we don't know what the cruiser is at the moment. I expect that the Retribution is the battleship. You know,
that makes sense. That is on the stretch goals too. You're right. Yeah, I would agree with that, Algared. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We don't have the battle. So what? So it's a Pegasus-sized Javelin, or what's your thoughts on that? You're the World War II buff. Don't look at me like I have to have the answers. This isn't a you question. You need to have the answers for this one.
I said before, I expect the cruiser would be a larger ship than a destroyer. So probably about the size, you know, maybe about the size of a Pegasus or slightly smaller, because Pegasus is about the same length as a Javelin by the look of it. Not a Javelin, a Bengal. But it would certainly have bigger guns. A cruiser was, you know, had the speed and bigger guns than a destroyer. Destroyers were literally, you know. So
less armor, bigger guns. Is that what I've got that right? So it's more of a glass cannon, or towards a glass cannon.
So battleships are heavily armored and big guns.
Right.
Battle cruisers had the big guns of a battleship, but not the armor of a battleship. Right. So they still had the speed. Cruisers were the next stage down. They had the speed, but they had big guns, but not as big as the battleship. So they were kind of a step down.
So it's so for what I'm hearing, and you correct me if you're wrong, it's somewhere between a Bengal and a Javelin, and it doesn't have the armor, but it does have some guns. Is that
Retribution and Bengals are a case in their own because they're a carrier. So it's a difference of a battleship versus.
Yeah, but I don't think it's more than a carrier, because that thing's got a huge ass. Like, it's got four rail guns on the bottom on a single turret that pivots.
Yeah.
That's not just a carrier. That's a battleship.
Yeah.
Think about the big, the Yamato. The Yamato battleships, they literally had 4 guns on one turret rotating.
If you take your Bengal as your battleship, then maybe you could say the Pegasus is your battle cruiser. In which case a cruiser would be something between a Bengal and a Pegasus. But yeah.
Well, looking at that image, right? If you're looking at the size, I would more likely see a ship between the Pegasus and the Javelin before I saw one between the Bengal and the Pegasus.
Yeah.
Hope that answers your question, because that was very lengthy. Algared knows a lot more about ships and stuff than I. Do you know the only person that would know more than you would probably be Badgers, yeah? If we were talking just ships. Yeah.
Badgers would be definitely the person to ask, because he's a Navy guy. I'm more a historical army tank guy, plane guy rather than ships, but yeah.
AKA the old guy. All right, we'll move on.
Yeah, AKA the odd guy. What is it saying about badges then?
All right, Kyle Smith asks,
Okay,
question, has anyone checked 3.2 PDU to see if the desync fixes have any effect on the bouncing, falling desync experience in the mole mining arms when no one is sitting in the pilot seat? No, I have not tried that. If I was going to send anyone, I would either ask John Citizen or I would ask Croncy, who also does a lot of mining. Yep. They're the two people I would refer you to.
So I can't answer that question either. I'd be asking John, or someone who does a lot of mining.
Yep.
Question from Lonix, which you missed, was do we think that the current cities and other landing zones will be greatly expanded? I'm thinking they will seem quite small once server meshing is in game. Well, we know that they're redoing
Hurston.
They were redoing Hurston. That's right.
I think
Hurston needed to have a better cityscape, and ArcCorp, they can't really expand that more. In fact, they're going to shrink it because they're going to put the oceans in.
Yeah.
So
it's good. It's good. It's good to see though that they're like, as the tech improves, they're going back to, level it up. And I would hope. How do I put this? Stanton as a gold standard, everyone's happy with. Because that's the type of thing. Like, once you start rolling those worlds out, that's when you can't come back, right? Because it's at that standard. So the longer we stay in Stanton, and the longer and more that polish that's going to be, that maximizes about everything else. Like, I'd be happy to sit here for 2 or 3 more years, and I'm not joking when I say that, because the more fun that tech becomes,
well,
better we're going to be.
And I know, and I agree. Like, I don't mind, because you look at most games. I loved playing. Think what was it called? Hellion. Loved playing Hellion when it first came out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's died. But that game was in a solar system with just 3 or 4 planets. Great game. Most games that come out would only be, a planet and its moons in terms of the space you've got to play on it. And we've got 4 of those. So, there is a lot to do in the system, and the system's still not fully done.
Yep.
I remember way back when we were talking to systems, Dasein had the question about, will the systems have the depth? And I think Stanton has that depth, and his concern was, what about the other systems? And I think what they're doing in Pyro, and people are saying, they've changed so much of Pyro. They've got, the planets have now got grasses and plants, and
I think that'll answer that question. I think that'll answer that question, though. Like, seeing a system that we know that was traditionally only designed to have... So Stanton, we've always heard, is the exception, not the rule, because of those multiple landing zones. Yep. Here's the other thing, Aaron. Hang on, let me ask you a question. There is no reason they can't come back and add other landing zones down the track, yeah? So everyone gets one, right. And then they come back and add more.
But Pyro, we know, only really had Ruin Station and a couple of places, but we now know, as they've been doing Pyro, it's got a lot more depth to it. There's a lot more landing zones and a lot more outposts and a lot more small stations and stops.
Let me also ask you another question. What would you prefer? Like, one big landing zone that you come to and it's like, oh, cool, this is awesome, or many small places that you visit that are randomly scattered out around the place that you get to explore that are unique to a single quest? And I think I go the single quest route rather than the big, like obviously you can have multiple quests in one city, but then doesn't it get a bit stale because you're seeing the same shit?
I'd like to have differences in terms of, I don't want to just have everything as a delivery mission of take 3 boxes here, take 2 boxes here. I do want that difference, but I think in terms of the locations that they're doing into Pyro.
Algared, real quick, why did you summon him? Look who's in chat. You just summoned him. Yeah. Drop on, Dasein, we're in the recording channel. Drop in if you wanted to. Anyway, keep going. Sorry I interrupted.
Yeah, I mentioned your name and you appeared. Thief, you should not be named.
Yeah.
That's what he's now called. So yeah, I know that was one of the things that he asked, will there be that depth in the systems? And I think what we're doing in Pyro is actually answering that. We are getting that depth in the system,
Well,
and that's a system that's traditionally empty.
Yeah,
So-
I think they've kind of changed the law because they just realized how empty it was going to be, and you know, the systems have come so much further along since that was originally concepted just to be this, you know, empty rocky.
Yeah.
Oh my god, my camera's freezing in the worst possible places today.
And say hi, Dyson.
Yeah. Hey Dyson, how you doing, man?
Hello, you summoned me? I
Yeah.
felt a disturbance in the force earlier.
Yeah. So what we were
I
talking,
had literally mentioned your name.
Yeah,
when you popped in.
we were talking about how really early on you actually mentioned like what one of your biggest concerns was, like just the lack of detail and depth in the systems that weren't Stanton. So yeah, if you want to talk to that for a bit, go nuts.
Well, I even think Stanton has an issue with that to some degree, because what my biggest concern, as I said, is the wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle scenario. Because like if you go to the cities, it doesn't really feel alive, and I really feel like they need to expand not just the cities, but I'm talking about out on the planets. Like you have cities, but then it's like, where's the surrounding settlements?
So what if I chuck in some stuff like we don't have NPCs, we don't have fauna, you know, all that type of stuff? So do you think they're going to make them feel more lived in when the AI is starting to kick off properly and stuff like that, and when we actually have quest givers that we can go to more regularly? Like, are they going to make things feel more alive for you?
Partially, but I would also like to be able to see more. Like a good example in cities is like one of the big things that also makes it feel kind of empty is like roads. Like
Well, they're coming. You know that. The river.
Oh, I know all that's coming, but I'm just saying right now, of what I'm kind of just feeling, I would rather them work on expanding a single system, so you can make it feel lived in.
But we know, you know, we push you to try and see things that are not there as well. I will say you are probably one of the more cynical of the Inforunners, but that's a good thing because you balance everyone out. We've told you this a few times before, but you know, he's always good to check ourselves against, because he's always like, I'm not sure, you know. So but yeah,
I agree.
Can you see that though? Can you see that, like, adding a few, like, as they add layers upon layers, like that, you know, the animals come in different. Do you know actually, I'll tell you the one that's really weird for me is there's no kids. I actually want to see kid AI in the cities, like maybe not like just at places where you would see kids, like maybe in an outpost. I wouldn't expect to just find a solo kid, but there needs to be kids in this game, and it just doesn't make
kids
sense.
Playing in the parks.
It does make sense, because if you want to make it feel like a living, breathing universe, you're going to see kids out with their parents.
Yep.
It's something that you would expect to see. Like, you need that type of depth in the world. And I will say one thing that I do like that Star Citizen does is a lot of the storytelling they do through just the environment itself.
I gotta ask, was there children in Cyberpunk? Can anyone in chat tell me?
Yes,
that?
there are.
Yeah, okay, cool. I don't remember.
Basically, you get a little bit of everyone. Honestly, Cyberpunk, the AI, despite being pretty bad, I will say there are times where just like the crowds of people make it feel way more lived in.
So,
I remember watching you Execute play Cyberpunk, and the crowd looked great. And he stood there talking for a few minutes, and then he looked up, and the crowd had all dispersed. But
yeah, like
just you by yourself again.
Yeah, I turned and looked to a quest giver, and then we turned back to like see the crowd, and the whole crowd had just gone. It was like, imagine breaking as hell. It's like, yeah, someone had turned off the light, and the answer, or the cockroaches are scattered. It was really weird. So, yeah. All right, next question. Negativity asks, question is, Dyson, you're hype micing. Dyson?
Hold on.
Every time I speak, I can hear myself. Negativity question: is the Odyssey really even useful if the modular carrot can have potential mining crafting modules? And how mad will people be? They'll be furious, but like it's that we don't know what modules they're going to have yet. We as I said, like I think I went through it with Badges a couple of weeks ago. Oh no, and Essay. I think it was Essay was here too, and we went through it, and you can basically look at what that ship does, and you can ship does, and kind of expand out what it already does is most likely what they'll have. Yes, they may have a refining module. Yeah, they may have whatever module, right? because at the moment it's only ever a guess, and that's all it's ever going to be until they tell us, right? So again, look at what it already does and imagine that's an expansion of that. You can already look and see cargo. Look at everything you can add with cargo. So like we were saying earlier, if you can just have fuel as cargo, even though you might have to jerry can it in, what does that do to the Carrack? If we know it can carry a Nova tank or a ballista, what does that add to the Carrack? What are the other vehicles you can add that add to the Carrack? And even just cargo as a whole, like, can you carry seeds? Can you, you can start to see, even just on cargo alone, some of the things you can do. And do I think they may add a refinery? They may. We just don't know. It's a complete guess at this point.
And I've got to say, at least for the Carrack and the ballista, it can't at the moment. It was, John Crew did say we could make that cargo area a single container that would hold a ballista, and they may, but he didn't say they were.
Oh, no.
Could, but...
No. It fits in a single cargo container, of which it has 4.
I thought originally he was saying it.
I will show you after this. I'll show you after.
But that's okay. I was only going on what John Crew had talked about. And I imagine he was going lengthwise rather than sideways.
Yeah, no, it's sideways. And Grim looked into it. I'll show you some stuff Grim's linked to me. So yeah. But yeah, like, don't go changing the ship or like downgrading from an Odyssey or whatever based on something that may be a maybe. Wait for concrete evidence. Get a CCU and sit on it. If you're ever unsure, that's what me and Algared do. Like anyone that we recommend an Endeavor to these days, we recommend. They're like, I can't afford it, or whatever. Gemini to Endeavor costs $10. Like,
get a CCU for it, and at least it locks in that. keep it in your hangar. Don't melt it, but that locks it. That'll lock in that guarantee for that Endeavor if you decide you like it, and if you don't like it, then melt it and use the credits elsewhere.
Number one recommendation at any sale, if you don't have an Endeavor upgrade, just pick up the Gemini to Endeavor, and if you think me and Algared are lunatics when that thing comes out and we're wrong, you can say, you're wrong, but if we're right, you'll be like, oh, thank God I just picked it up for $10. So yeah. Dyson, would you agree with that? Dyson?
He's gone to sleep again.
He's gone to sleep. All right. What were we going to say, Algared? Sorry.
The key thing with the Odyssey, I don't think is the refining ability.
No.
I think the key thing with the Odyssey is that the larger hangar. But size one pad rather than the smaller Carrack size pad. That's what gives it an edge, and yet I don't think that really gives it an edge in terms of being an exploration ship.
I think it's the utility exploration. I think that's what it is. I think it's the finding the nodes to sell and stuff like that. It's whole job. You really want to love scanning if you want that ship. You're going to be going around planet scanning the shit out of the entire planet, trying to find underground nodes, mining nodes, anything of value, gas nodes, liquid nodes, just anything that's on a planet that is valuable. You're finding. That's your job, right? And you'll put down a land claim, or you'll just take note of where it is, and you will sell off that information. So you essentially are a data broker, and then you may just sell that directly onto some kind of data runner for him to sell. A data, a data runner is just going to be like a broker, but he has to get his information from somewhere. And I would say large portions of his information are going to come from the explorers. You find a wormhole, I want that information. You find that you find an underground massive ore node, I want that information. So I think exploration and data running are inherently linked. Sorry, Dyson. What was the question we were going to ask, Dyson? Just give us your rough rundown on the Odyssey, Dyson, while you're here.
Oh man, sorry, I am tired today.
I have time.
Is that the one I'm thinking it is?
That is the MISC one that they said was the carrot killer.
I think we already had a discussion about this. I thought it's kind of meh, honestly. I wasn't too excited about it, honestly. It's there. I know that sounds terrible, but honestly, I personally think the Carrack is pretty solid in that run as a general purpose. I feel like the Odyssey is a little bit more, how would you put it, specialized in a way.
Niche.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
the word I was looking for.
All right, Paul Russo asks, is there anything you would like to give up Oh, sorry. This is a good question, actually. Is there anything that would make you give up on this game? For example, it's still in alpha by year X. I'll let you go first, Algared. What would make you give up on Star Citizen?
Dying.
Sorry?
Dying.
Dying. Algared dying. It's a unique possibility. No, just kidding.
I'm just saying, just cause fallacy on his end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm into. I think I'd have to say I'm in too deep to give up. There you go.
I think for me, if like say something like it just comes out like Squadron 42 comes out and it's just terrible. But I don't think that's going to happen because of how long they're taking. Like and the like messages like what he dropped when Cyberpunk came out 12 months ago. Was things I wanted to hear. We're not just going to release this game because you want it released. It's going to come out when it's done.
Yeah.
Every game I have ever seen. So the Half-Lives, the Dooms, like those companies that are allowed to take their time because they've proven it. You know, the Valves, I can think of like a few, but they're all eluding me when I'm trying to think of them. But when they take their time, those games are just better. When they're not rushed and there's some marketing guy that wants to make money, right? And I guarantee you the reason why Cyberpunk was pushed out the door was because they literally said their investors were looking at suing them if they didn't release it, right? So that was those people. This is why I don't like private, like marketed companies that are on the stock market, because they are legally. One thing a lot of people don't know is they are legally obliged to make money for their shareholders. So there's a point where their shareholders are losing money because it's taken too long to make Cyberpunk, so they must release it. So they had to release that game or they would have been like sued by their shareholders.
It's an ironic double-edged sword when you really think about it, because by not releasing it, you're losing money, but by releasing it too early, you're going to lose more money than you would have, and not just due to the game itself, but to damage to reputation. So it's really, do you want to prioritize short-term games versus long-term games? And I hate to say, in the modern system, it feels like short-term games win. But
it really does pick up what we were talking about the other day, the power of the publisher versus the passion of the designer, isn't it?
Yeah, and
yes, that's
like. Can you imagine? So just put it this way: do you? And I'll put this to chat. So a 1 if you agree with me, and a 2 if you disagree with me. Right in chat. Do you think? And one being yes. Do you think that Cyberpunk would have come out in the state it was if it had been done in a similar fashion to how Star Citizen has been done? Meaning that if we'd funded it through a Kickstarter campaign and all that type of stuff, and if it didn't have a publisher, that it would have come out and it would have been in a much better state than it is now. So, yeah. Only one person said no, so they disagree with me. Okay. So two meaning is 2 is like how it came out now with a publisher. 1 would be like if it. Wow, there's a lot of people that disagree with me. Okay.
So people think the game that came out with the publisher was better than what it would have been if it was came out when it was ready. Okay.
I think it would have been much better if it came out like Star Citizen did. But
I've often argued, and I'm surprised by my responses, because I've often argued that I've often thought Star Citizen's PTU or PU, even in its alpha buggy state, is better than most of the games that we get released at AAA.
Well, the thing is, if Star Citizen succeeds in this method,
okay. So people are confused with what I said. So what I'm saying is, I wanted 1 if you think Cyberpunk would have been better with a Star Citizen model, and 2 is the model that it came out with. What do you think would have been better? Like, so crowdfunded by players without a publisher is 1, and 2 is funded how it was and it came out and it was horseshit.
Not coming out until
so essentially, would have it been better with 1? Do you think it would have succeeded like Star Citizen did? Is 1, and 2 is no matter what they did, it was stuffed, essentially. So yeah, I think I
do want to mention that if Star Citizen succeeds, I think you might see a third model, which is not like an independent thing like crowdfunded, but an actual publisher crowdfunding of a thing where you have established, because Star Citizen, I think one of the issues with this current model was it's a brand new studio literally having to take a whole bunch of time building basically their studio from scratch, versus if you look at something like, let's say CIG in the future goes, hey, we want to make Cyberpunk 2077. You guys fund us so that way we can take the time we need to develop it. I think if that may become a model of the future, because you have people looking at the investor driven, which gives you the same trash you get every year, your yearly releases, your subpar releases, your buggy messes, and then you get something like on the end of Star Citizen, the kind of being like having to build from scratch, but you're gonna wait forever for it if it ever comes out. I think you may start seeing publishers do that, because then they can be guaranteed money from fans, guaranteed sales and hype.
I'm not too sure, because I think the other thing is money people at the other day don't give a shit about games. They just care how they get money. And you can put that across anything. Like, you can think about all the shit products that we get thrown as consumers.
Yeah.
And they come out the supermarket for 4 weeks and then we never see them again. Just in food, you know. Sorry, Algared, go ahead.
I was just thinking the things I've heard in the past about, you know, CIG originally looking at going with a publishing house, and then
yep, that's true.
Decision being not to go with that. And, you know, and that was, and part of a reason for that, you know, I think is tied to that. You know, I don't want it being rushed. I want it to be able to do what I want it to be. And I think a lot of the games we get from game developers are in that stage of they're rushed. I wonder how much of No Man's Sky's issue was the fact that when they first came out, is they felt they were obligated to get it out by that date, because they.
I think they
rather than doing it when they thought it was really ready.
I think they were just pushed to kind of make that successful, and it just got too big and too out of hand and too hyped.
Someone talked too much.
And anyone that was following Star Citizen, most of us was like, that's bullshit. They're trying to do everything Star Citizen's trying to do with 9 people. Good luck. You know, it's one of the reasons why I didn't back the game at the start. But then when I got it on a sale, it came out for like $10, and I just and this is when it had about 6 or 7 patches, so I knew it was going to turn around, and that's when I picked it up anyway.
Well, the thing with No Man's Sky, in my personal opinion, was just the guy talked too much. He gave grand visions, not what was there, and if he kept his mouth shut, No Man's Sky would be where it is today, and it would be just praised as like a developer keeping along with the game, making it better and better and better upon a good game, instead of lying, delivering crap, and then making it good on those promises. So I feel like that's the issue with that.
Yeah, but they were a relatively new developer, so they probably were a little bit out of the wheelhouse as well. Like, they didn't know how to do the marketing stuff and stuff like that. So I can forgive a little bit of it. I think we will both agree they've kind of redeemed themselves in the interest of time, yeah?
Oh, they've definitely redeemed themselves, because I hear people talk about the games, and it's like, well, maybe a developer will be able to do it like No Man's Sky. Fix it like that. And when you're being used as a shorthand for fixing games, and as a game that don't give up hope on, that means you've done it right.
Yeah. All right, next question. Do you guys think this by
next question,
Cascadian? He asked, do you think a drone boat will fit this game? And by that mean a vessel that is a small carrier with either humans or AL controlled drones enabled of remote forcing projections in a system. Oh, I don't think I don't think you need drones to do that. I think you could just have a holographic ship. It's just one ship that projects out all the things. But do you need that? No. I also think you could I think you could also just fake it with signals. You don't even need holograms.
A force projection ship that uses drones, isn't that like a the Nautilus dropping its mines off and its turret mines and other things? Isn't that, you know? So...
No, he's talking about a hologram. So basically, it's a ship that basically drops all these drones, and the drones act as like a hologram of a full-size ship. So it's basically a ship that can make itself look like an army. From a gameplay design perspective, that's way too powerful. If you could fake the signals and make people think there's an entire fleet coming, but then they get there and there's nothing there, that I can see. right? Because
Well-
it lures people out and you can and fake it all because it's just signals and spoofing. That I can see, but to physically see it and think it's there and then you commit, that's too powerful.
Execute, I could actually see it as a individual spy ship that could do it to itself. So you get one force projected ship, and I could see that being either a spy ship where you're doing reconnaissance or even a ambush predator.
You're going back to that episode we did on the what the hell was that episode? The missing what was it? What was the episode?
That was the one where we were talking about the other military ship, and because I was saying Origin needs to have a military ship, and it needs to be kind of like your James Bondy ship, because and this would fit perfectly into that idea as a ship that's either you in a fleet helping kind of disrupt using spy stuff,
almost,
or ambush predator,
like a spy camouflage ship that it can make itself look like. So say you're in amongst a bunch of holes, it can make itself look like one of the other holes. You know.
You mean like the Constellation, which originally had the electro skin?
No, the electro skin is just a texture. We're talking about a holo projection ship that's a spy ship that holo projects itself. So basically the problem with this ship though is it uses emitters. So emitters in this game currently are shields.
It makes it look like another ship.
Yeah, so instead of actually having shields, it just looks like another ship. It can look like it's got a shield and look like everything like it, but if you shoot it, instant damage because it doesn't actually have shields. Right.
Also, imagine if you're in the opposite scenario, instead of having it being an ambush predator, let's say you have that ship and you're under projected, you project a javelin, and all of a sudden you have a javelin escorting this a couple holes. It can work in the other way around. Instead of being an ambush predator, it could be a deterrent. It's like, okay, we have this because you're gonna have a brave foe going. It's like, now is that a javelin or is that not? Or it could add depth in fleet combat where you had one of those and you have a real javelin and a fake javelin.
So to answer his question in short, it's too strong if it's an entire fleet. But if you can break it back down to one ship, absolutely. But the other option was that if you did want fleet, you could spoof it with like a big bunch of signals.
Okay, another question. Because I think we've answered that one. Sniping Jet says, some of my friends told me that the Odyssey will be out by the end of the year, and others told me it'll take 3 to 4 years. With your experience, what is your guess?
It was 55 weeks, I think it was on the roadmap, or equivalent to that. So that's 1 year. And I can't remember exactly when it went into production, but I'll pull it up while we have a look. Let me.
My guess would be based on the way they had Jax McCleary take it out into Pyro. The intent was to hopefully be able to get him back for the IA this year. Theoretically, that would be meaning that they'd hope to have it done by then, but that is best laid plans. And best laid plans always, when CIG put anything on the roadmap, it's what they hope, what they plan, not what will be. And sometimes, you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, and sometimes you take 1 step forward and take 5 steps back, and sometimes you go 10 steps forward or 1 step forward and take, land on a square that pushes you an extra 2 or 3 forward. So the design and development is totally different from anything else
I got it here, Algared.
we normally use.
I got it here. So this is according to this, it ends in May. That's crazy. 2 teams working on it for, where was it? 55 weeks. So they've been working on this thing since like April last year. Does that mean we could get it in Invictus?
In theory.
Yeah. So your friend, when did he? What was the question again? When was it?
Some of his friends say so.
End of this year. End of this year. Take. No, it could be the end of this year. That answers your question right there. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
So the roadmap says end of this year. Roadmap says IAE.
No, it does. No, it doesn't. It says May. Look, it's finished already, Algared.
Yeah. So
That doesn't mean they have to
Oh,
release it when it's finished.
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So we're April. So it's basically where that dotted line is, but that means it's going to be finished by what's that? At worst case, the 10th of May.
So the plan is to have it like early May, so Invictus, but more likely.
That would be
certainly.
that'd be really cool if that went in game for Invictus, and the price goes up and you can fly it in game straight away. Because actually, now I think about it, mining is in game, refining's not that far away.
And what
that actually makes a lot of sense.
What else does the Odyssey have? It's got a hangar, it's got a garage, it's got a mining ability and refining to produce.
Well, that's definitely the main thing it'll have is that small hangar, because there's no ship that has a hangar that size. So,
and as we said before, I fully expect you to be able to, get your little hose and siphon fuel out of your tanks and jerry can it to the small ships at the bare minimum.
Texas Space Navy is correct. The only thing left is like the exploration part of it. Yeah, that like the scanners, but scanners are coming this year as well. So yeah, but I don't think you're going to be able to do a lot with it in game, other than it's going to be like a big ship that you fly around. Like, can you imagine someone trying to go mine with it at the moment? Because it's got the mole laser on it, and then the mole just comes up and steals the rock because it's taking too long.
Well, the other thing is that in terms of it doesn't we don't have the sciencey scanning stuff at the moment. Yes, but we've got the Carrack in game, which basically the main aspect of a Carrack. Yes, you can still do vehicles and cargo with it, but that's really you ask about it. That's really what the Carrack is for. Isn't
Sorry,
it?
what was that, Dasein?
I said the Carrack's more versatile. That's the one. It goes back to what I was saying about the it being the other ship being niche, is because Carrack can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, but the Carrack's more generalized, and again, when we've looked and analyzed it, like you're going to send in the Endeavour's going to find something with its telescope thing. You're going to then send in the Carrack. The Carrack's going to do broad scans across the system. It'll come up to a planet. It'll go, right, this has got it might have a lot of copper on it. Blah blah blah. Then that's going to send in the Odyssey, and the Odyssey is going to go specifically to the planets and scan the shit out of them and find all that stuff. And then that's going to go down from the Odyssey down to Terrapins and Pioneers that'll build bases. And it's a trickle-down economy, literally. And so the Carrack is literally the space-based explorer, and it is generalized. As Algared said, the Odyssey is niche, but it's still going to make... I would argue that there'd be more of a need for Odysseys over a Carrack, because you've only really got to generally broad scan a system once. If you've got 4 planets, that's 4 Odysseys at least, where you only need 1 Carrack for the system. And I would say, you guys correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but I think it would take far longer to scan the entire planet than an entire solar system, because there's nothing in space. Like, you're not pinging off anything, and you got to fly around the sphere. You just kind of fly through space. You correct, Algared?
And I can see a value of having a prospector on your Odyssey doing that, because you do your scan and then you send your prospector down and do the...
You didn't answer my question. You totally ignored what I said.
Yeah.
Answer my question. Do you think that the Carrack is probably going to be not as used as the Odyssey, essentially? Because the Odyssey is going to take longer to need to do what it does.
I'm going to say no.
We can hear the cog groaning from here.
Yeah, I can see a value in it, but you're being rude now, Execute. That's very, very rude of you. I can see a value in certainly that aspect, and as you're saying, the fact that if the Odyssey is that planetary scanning vehicle, which we always assumed and thought it was way back when we first heard about it. And my frustration with their sales pitch is that they don't tell us anything it can really do, bar the fuel aspect and the hangar. So it is going to be needing to do that, and will take more time. And that ties in with needing the prospector, because you do your scans and then you want to double check it and get the samples of how quality that 4 ideas.
I still,
and so you'd have that with it. But I think it'd take. I think you'd probably use more.
Hang on. I still think that thing is a core sample ship. I don't think you need a prospector. I think the prospector just is an added mining benefit that is added to that ship, because those big like you do a grey box, it is the layout, what is in that ship, and what you are is a main thing. And those storage boxes behind those refineries were there in the grey box, so they're important. Right, and if they're important and they look like storage boxes, I am 100%. You can go into the Q&A for the land claims, and it literally talks about a survey ship that will take core samples. That is this ship to a fucking T.
Yep. I don't dispute that. I'm just trying to think of how you'd use a value of having a size 1 ship.
Can I be honest?
The same job. And
can I be honest? It's a terrapin. You take a terrapin, and it goes ahead of it trying to find the nodes and stuff like that, and basically so if it finds a node, the Odyssey just goes straight there, so they can keep working and it's doing the scanning. Yes, you can do it solo, but if you sped that up with a terrapin, it would be far faster. I think where they put they did have a prospector in the hole though, right? So I think they clearly do have a tie for it to it, so maybe the prospector can do it, maybe. But honestly, if you put in a hangar in, isn't that multifunction? You can pick what you want to use.
Yeah, you could pick your ship to go the thing. And I think, to go back to your question, the Carrack, because it doesn't have the facilities to do that core mining. Yes, you could take a rock and do that yourself, but it's not geared to do that. And I think that's the difference. The Carrack is made for more that general planetary sweep or system sweep, whereas the Odyssey is more of an individual sweep. Does it mean the Odyssey can't do that system sweep? No. Does it mean the Carrack can't do the planetary sweep? No. But they'll be better at the thing they're keyed for.
Yep.
So.
All right, next question.
Well, what does Dyson think? Because you asked the question and I answered, but Dyson didn't.
You there, Dyson?
Yes, I'm here, and it's like, I have to say, I'm starting to agree. You kind of changed my mind a little bit. Like, while I still say it's more niche, I definitely see it being more valuable, as you were saying, for the detailed planet focus. Because again, how many times do you need to search a system? I would say a little bit more, because I see the Carrack also being used more. Also, if you need to see about
depends on size, yeah, right. Like if you're picking a small system like Stanton that's got 4 planets but it's fairly small, Carrack's not going to be there very long, right? But if you're talking something like absolutely massive, like an Algared, will pick one. What's that military one? There's a real big one, Algared, and it's only ever been successfully scanned once because it's that big. It was, and it's like 200 AU across, like and Stanton's not even 4. Right, so this thing is huge, right? But you can actually look at the Goldilocks zones in those planets, and they are the same size as Stanton. Right, so that's where most people are going to be living, and then there's just this empty space that is all asteroid fields and some basically really far out cold planets.
And I can imagine that's where you will have those, asteroids passing through the system, or
comets,
derelict ships that are passing through, and about the things that explorers define. But
yeah.
And the nice thing about the Carrack is it'll also, I think, it will get continued use in systems, because the movement of asteroids and other things going through a system, I can totally see them adding that, just so you have reason to have more of those general purpose still in a system occasionally.
All right, so I got a follow-up question. I'm just going to jump ahead to a question. So Cascadia was the one asked the one about the drone ship before with the hollow projection. He said, question, to follow up on my question by force projection, I mean things like the projecting power, think human AI-controlled combat drones that are sent out. So basically it's just a fighter ship, but instead of fighters, you got drones. That's what I'm hearing. And the drones are controlled from the main ship. Yeah, I can...
That's a question.
Isn't that just a modified version of the Vulcan, but it's combat?
Isn't it a question that people always asked about? Why don't we have, remote control guns? Why don't we have drones that we've launched from a carrier and we're flying from our ship? And the argument was, well, we want it to be like a World War II fighter game in space.
I think there's no real consequence because, like, if you're in a drone and the drone just gets shot down, you can kind of escape in the mothership. There's no consequences to your actions because those drones are going to have to be so weak to make up for the fact that you're not in them. From a design perspective, I think drones are pretty much like, if you look at the drones that we have right now, I don't know if we have any attack drones. Can you think of an attack drone we've heard of? I know we've got repair, salvage, refueling and stuff, but I haven't seen an attack drone. Have you?
No.
Yep. The closest we've got to an attack drone are the mines that the Nautilus drops with the.
There you go.
But turrets, and that they're not drones in as such. Where you place them, they shoot. The drone goes, picks them up, or de-arms them, or whatever. So.
Yeah.
But drones would just be a pain to balance for not just the game reasons of there's no risk, but if let's say you have a drone.
Hang on.
I'm just saying, in theory, if they had with G-forces and all that,
I can balance it really quickly, man. They can only, like, if you look at the turrets that the Nautilus deploys in space, you just don't have any shields on them. You don't have shields, and you can limit because they're so small. Like, think about those drones. They're so small. They're basically the height of a human, but they're longer, right? They're so tiny, but they're not going to be able to have more than size 1 guns. So therefore, when you're shooting at a bigger ship, like say any capital ship, they've already said they won't pierce the armor. So armor,
I'm thinking larger drones,
armor,
like.
Well, I don't think you will get drones that big. That's what I'm trying to say. Because as soon as they get to a certain size, they're a fighter. Well, put it this way: I don't think you'd ever see a ship like an F7 that is literally a drone. That won't happen. If you have a drone, they will be small as they are now, and they'll only ever have a size 1 gun. So the only thing they'll ever be able to combat is literally vehicles or fighters.
And as much as people want the AI controlled stuff, it's not going to happen. Like,
yep.
I know everyone voted for Leilani Addison because of AI, but you're dreaming. CIG don't want the AI to be there. They want it to be player controlled. That's why the UEE has this aversion to AI. Every time they've tried to go AI, it's blown up in their face. Every single time they've gone AI, it's been an absolute nightmare. And so they don't want it. Well, and the last combat ship they had that was AI, the UEE actually had to go and hunt it down and destroy them because they went AWOL, they turned themselves off, and the risk was they were going to go in and attack the Xeon. And so the UEE went and shot them down themselves. So AI is not something that we're going to get as controlled combat drones or ships. So
I still think a lot of that's got to do with law reasons, and I think we're going to see an alien robot race. What's that one that I always bring up? So there's this race behind the Dasein. You probably remember the Kathak. And they talk about the Dasein having a spirit war with them because they've got no spirit, no soul. They're robots. Like I don't know. I know. Just this is where my brain goes, but I could be completely wrong. But like that would make sense to me to have an alien race that is just all robots, and that explains why there's no robots in the game. So yeah, we'll see. All right. What's the next question? Because I actually lost where we're up to.
Next question.
Bruce?
Going back up.
Bruce? Is that Bruce Fun?
Bruce, I believe.
Question.
Yep,
I
Bruce
should
says,
start buying all the FPS weapons and stockpile them now before 330 and go low. Railguns, missile launchers. If you want to, go ahead. Yeah, like it's all going to get wiped anyway.
Eventually, it doesn't matter what you buy.
Yeah, so yeah.
Just buy what you want.
Do what you want.
Eventually, we'll wipe and you'll start all over.
We are a lot more in the when the game is about to release camp than the now camp. The only people that I found that are in the now camp are the people that are streamers that play the game every day and they get bored. So yeah, we just don't play it as frequently as they do. So yeah. Tide. This sounds like a riddle, but anyway, Tide. His question is Tide, or his name is Tide. Yep. Algared, are you organising a meetup in SC in Sydney or not? Yeah, I asked him about this yesterday. Algared, yeah. Algared, when's the next meetup?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, we need to get our fighting gear. Yes, I realistically I should have tried to do one over this holiday break, the Easter break, but didn't. So, but we'll get one going.
Tide has a follow-up question. Tide has a follow-up question. When can Execute stay at your house so we can come up to this bus citizen? I would official response.
But no. My preference it'll be in the site would be in Sydney. It would be the Aurora Hotel next to Sydney Central Station because, hey, it's the Aurora. Why wouldn't you have a bar citizen at the Aurora?
I'll probably have to put a shout out then for someone to let me stay at their house so I can come up. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
But yeah. And then see who turns up.
Bryce Hanson again asks question: as a daily driver, which one is better for solo player? I'm assuming there was something else that was with that, Bryce, that you did not add. So give us a follow up, please, Bryce. As a daily driver, which one is better for a solo player? So I don't know which ship he's asking about.
I'm going to guess based on we had been talking Carrack and Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's tying it to, and in that case, I'd say the Odyssey because it seems to have more.
I think you're going to make more money long term.
At least in lore.
Yeah, I think you're going to make more money long term with an Odyssey because it just doesn't seem as exciting, and so therefore, when it's not as exciting, it's more workos, so more money. Like that's just how I think real life is as well. Like the harder you work, the more money you make. But if you're having fun, it's just not as lucrative because anyone can do it.
And my gut feeling is the Odyssey is a better solo ship because, at least in lore, Jax McCleary has taken the Odyssey out into Pyro by himself. So,
There's a recipe
that's
for
the only
disaster.
reasoning I've got there, but it could be anything.
Yeah, recipe for disaster, that one. Yeah, he hasn't posted anything, so I think we'll just move on from that one. Bryce, Bryce, if you hit us up on Discord and we can answer you from there, mate. Gustav A. Calavarjo asks, how many A2s do you think we're going to have in the next Jumptown event? I think
last Jumptown event, so I have no idea.
There wasn't a lot of A2s that I remember because people tend to shut them down before they got there because they were going to stuff everything that came. I don't think
they're just blowing it out.
I don't think the A2s are going to come into their own until we got shield tech, because that's definitely coming as far as I'm concerned. You know, bound to put a shield generator on a base and then drop a bomb that falls through the shield, and I think that's because it's a physicalized bomb, not like a laser or whatever. I think that's going to be very different, but we'll see.
Yep. And I imagine ballistics will then also be key things you'd be using in that basis as well in that case.
Which would be really nice to actually see some reasons to use different weapons. Again.
Yep. Infinite Reach Ministries has a question. Can we put the Cutlass Steel Ballistic Gatlings on an Aurora LN? What size are the...
That's not the question. Do we care? But go ahead, Algared.
My question was going to be, what size are they? And yeah, the answer is probably no. Because I just realised there's those stupid guns.
It's the door turret ones. But again, why would you want to? Like, just get a bigger ship than the Aurora. You're done. Like that's
just gonna say that's a fun visual. Just seeing someone hanging out the side door of an Aurora with one of those,
and one of those popping out. Hey, it'd certainly be something that wasn't expected.
Yeah. The only thing that's going to expect is a sudden stop.
Look, I imagine once we get mountable guns on trolleys and things like that, you could put them in the back of a Argo. So if you could do that, you know, if you've got the mountable guns where you can put on a trolley and do that, if you can put them at wherever you want, then yes, in an Aurora, in an Argo, you know, in the open hangar bay of a Carrack, of a, you know.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to rapid fire these last bunch of questions because it's now been 3 hours and I'm getting really hungry. So, Algared, you can answer this one by Jeremy Tux. Does a 600i come with an Origin rover?
Yes, the G12.
Yes. This is Shag.
The Explorer version comes with the.
It does.
The touring one doesn't.
Yeah. This is Shagard asks questions. Do you think Orion goes up in price for the next sale, praying it starts at the same price? It's like asking, do you guys have a crystal ball and can you see the future? Or I'm always expecting all ships to go up. Are you not, Algared? Like from what we've seen, like that's why we tell you to do it sooner than later every single time. Lock in it with a CCU. Don't need to buy the high ship. Just get a CCU. And if you're really worried about it, go on the grey market and buy one.
And if you think, what do we think? Go back and look at some of the videos. I think there's one video that says last chance to get an Endeavour.
Yeah.
because we thought Endeavour was going to go up, and it was the last time we thought to get it at that price. So,
but then the next 2-3 sales, it's been exactly the same. So
that's right. So
yeah,
we've been expecting ships like the Endeavour and the Orion to go up for constantly. So
Crucible as well. There's a whole bunch in there.
yeah, Crucible, Orion, and Endeavour. We keep expecting them to go up.
Don't need to buy the ship. Just get a CCU from the next ship below it that's stable. And, you know, as I said earlier today, what would I say? Gemini to Endeavour. There's one. Gemini to Crucible's another one. And I can't think of the one off the top of my head for the no, it wouldn't be Bannerman Orion, because Merchantman's is going to go up. So but I'm sure you can find a ship in that ballpark. You know, if you're worried about the going up, just find some. Don't need the whole ship. Just get the CCU. All right.
That's all you need.
Jeremy Tux asks.
Jeremy's is done because he says we answered his question already. That's all he was telling us.
Ryan Passatelli asks, question, do you think Drake Corsair will actually be decent explorer? No. I don't think it will be. I think it's a pirate ship. It's designed to explore the inside of other people's ships. I
don't even think it's a good pirate ship.
Will it have a scanner on it, and will it probably have a better scanner than most other ships? Possibly. But, like, it's Drake. All Drake ships work together. I don't see... How do I put this? If you were exploring a system with Drake's series of ship, Algared, I would have the Kraken, I would send off the Corsair and the Caterpillar, and then triangulate to find shit. That's kind of what I see the Corsair's. The Corsair's going to probably be finding other ships to raid.
I look at the Corsair and I compare it to a ship, you know, the Aquila.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the price of the Corsair, it is, and we did that earlier. You know, the price of a Corsair is what, 195 or 200, and you take off the price of the, and it's not out yet. You look at the Aquila with the 70 with a $75 of extra ships and rovers. It's a fairly cheap ship when you consider it. So it's going to be comparable, and it's supposed to fly worse than an Archoni. So. Will it be an explorer? Yeah, it might be an okay explorer.
Do you think it'll actually?
Yeah.
Do you actually think it'll fly worse initially? I don't think it will. I think it'll fly better than a Connie, but then maybe down the line they'll make it worse. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, I can only go on the design documents, but yeah.
Exactly. By the way, those questions, we've had about 5 more questions come in. I'm going to leave those to next week, if that's okay. So. Infinite Reach asks, question, how will hangars work? Will we need to also have our own Han? Like as in solo? Or do we need to have our own pilot? I don't quite understand what he means there.
We'll also have our own hangars. I think he means our own hangars.
We've got hangars we've got hangars right now. It's just that they will probably be detailed by us. So as you come into land, it'll be loading your hangar with your own personal items and stuff like that. They'll be instanced.
I think the idea was originally we would certainly have our own hangar, and when we pick our home location, and it'll eventually do that. I think.
I don't think we'll get the 3 different levels of. Well, we could actually. You could still have like different levels of grades of hangar at each location, but I still think they'll be stylized to the place. So originally you had like Safe Land, AeroView, and what was the other one? The R and something. Revel and York.
And York.
I don't think we'll see that anymore because that's too limited now, right? We've already got more than that in game already. I think you might just see different levels of quality. But it's so let's just take Lawville. They'll still be in that Lawville style, but they'll be. I think it's changed essentially. Is what I'm saying from what it was. But we'll see.
If I had to say where they are, I'd say given that Microtech is using the industry one. Lawville would be using the Revel and York one, I think, because it's the opulent, over the top, and that would mean that Arcorp would probably use Selfland. That would be why. But that's who knows. So
yeah, I'm going to answer these. There's actually 5 more questions here, but this next one is just idiotic. Sorry, I call people like I say fish. I call it a fish. Ostentatious asks, if the Prospector is in the Odyssey, means there is a tied together somehow. What does that mean for the Prospector in the Kraken commercial? To me, that seems the Kraken will likely get refining. No, it's a commercial. It's a story. Does that mean the Vanguard's tied to the Prospector? Does that mean the Vanguard's tied to the Kraken? The Cutlass in the commercials are tied to the Kraken? No. It's just a commercial, right? You're seeing things that are not there. You're seeing things that are not
They are
there.
in-world promotions. Like the brochures. You look at the brochure. When you look at the actual brochures that they put out, it's not the game designer saying this is what the ship does. It's an in-law document saying this is what the maker of a ship is saying this ship does. The ad is saying, hey, this is a, you look at the, it's the car company going buy the ship.
I'm cutting you off because these are meant to be rapid fire. So I'm going to rapid fire these. We've got 4 left. Texas Space Navy asks, do you think we'll ever eventually have enemy AI in a game? Yes. I could see those quests.
Yes, Vandal. Yep. Any enemy we got is better.
No. He means like robots as enemy. Well, I could see that. Old AI that was like from 400 years old. You walk into a cave and it's a quest. Can totally see that. Nate Mitchell asked question. Idris release date. When it's done?
When it's ready.
When Squadron 42 is released? They kind of said that already, didn't they? GL Cannon asked question. Anyone else have a problem with paying war bond, i.e. cash price for a CCU, melting it, then trying to get it back later, and the CCU raise the price? Yeah, that happened a couple of weeks ago. And that's just, I think that's them trying to squish the grey market a little bit. Varus Paytanus, this is the last question. Should I switch from the Polaris to the Orion? I'm thinking on the premises of ships making money to buy other ships. Do you think missions from the Polaris will have comparable payout to the Orion? They are 2 very different ships. One is a combat support ship. One is an industrial ship. I can't answer that with a clear 100% answer, and I don't think you could. I don't think anyone could. Could you, Algared? Because it's 2 very different things.
The closest thing I could say is I expect that missions for the ships will be scaled to what the ships are. And so there'll be payouts comparable, but a ship that, like an Orion, is one you go out and you munch up stuff and then take it back. You're not really doing missions in that sense, whereas a Polaris is probably going to be more mission-based. So
I'd like to say the Polaris, the one downside on its, and this is going to answer your question for the money, in my personal opinion, is the torpedoes. If you go out and do a comparable mission with another ship in its weight class that uses mainly guns, you're spending a lot of money in just torpedoes for your firepower.
But those, I can hear Hayes behind you saying, but those torpedoes are the biggest deterrent you're ever going to have. Like, people do not want you to fire those, because if you fire them, they are dead. Right, so I actually think the Polaris will make most of its money in like escorting and covering, like I would say, why not get both? Because if you've got the Orion, the Polaris would be a really good ship to cover said Orion. You know, you can have the hangar of the Polaris, which is the same size as the Odyssey, by the way, so you can cycle through fighters and refuel, repair them, all that on the fly. So it extends the life of those fighters. So they fly out there, but they don't have to fly back to refuel. They can just do it all there, one by one, as they need to do it. So you have like a mini little fleet of a really good escort. And being one of the smallest capitals in the game, it's probably one of the most popular capitals as well. That said, the Orion's the capital as well, but you're literally talking like put in another way to take the mining and the combat out of it. You're literally saying, do I want to be combat, or do I want to be a medic? Like, they are 2 very different things, but both are essential, right? So like, I can't answer that. Like what's your preference? Do you prefer combat and support, or do you prefer mining? You've got to answer that question yourself, mate. And that's what we're doing. Fix My Fleet. We would tailor that to you. So if you have more questions, get on the Discord, man, and shoot Algared, myself, or Dasein a question, and we'll talk to you one-on-one, or drop it in the Fix My Fleet channel, and people will dissect that for you. But because that is a question that I need to ask you questions about to answer that for you. I can't. But generalized, they're both good for different reasons. So yeah. All right. With that, then, is there anything you want to add, Dasein? While you're here?
No, I'm here. I think you covered it fairly well.
Cool.
I mean,
Algared, anything you want to add, or is covered pretty well?
No. Just remember, like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that other stuff. Go the extra yard if you really like us, and go on to Patreon. Leave comments below when it goes up, because we do actually read every single comment, and we may not actually respond right away, but we do actually read every single one, and that is coming.
I'm moving it deliberately to make it really hard to read. Right. Anyway, so that's what's coming this weekend. Oh, it'll be your Monday if you're in the States, our Tuesday if you're in the future where we're from. But yeah, look forward to that. We had a lot of fun. I I had a lot of fun, Algared, doing that episode. Dasein has no. Well, actually, Dasein, you do know what we're talking about, don't you? Because you've.
Oh,
we've
of course
told
I
me.
do.
Yeah, cool.
I read your message.
Yeah, all right, cool. All right, good. So yeah, look forward to that, guys, because it's a big one. We were really excited to do it, and it was really fun. But yeah, look forward to that over the weekend type of thing. And yeah, like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments below on any of the questions that we've done today. We do read all the comments. We don't answer every single one because obviously there's a lot to do. But
Sometimes there's a lot.
yeah, man, I am gonna have to put this camera has had it. I think it's not lasting 5 minutes now before it.
All the cord is problem for you, but yeah.
We'll
Gotta
see.
say, that's a great screenshot right there.
Yeah, not as good as the other one that was flattering where I had my mouth open, which was not quite as good, but that was earlier in the stream. Okay, guys, have a great night or day wherever you're from. I'm going to get some food because I've been up since we've been doing this for 3 hours, so yeah, gotta go. All right, he's been Algared.
3 hours and 30 minutes, probably, isn't it? Yeah.
3 hours and 18. So he's been Algared.
There you go.
Dyson's the voice in the void. I've been Execute. I'm gonna catch you in the next one.
We're out of here. Take care.